Hello and good evening, and today I justify my Security Plus certification.
I told you we were going to play this song when we did this episode.
Hello.
What song is it?
The Eggman theme. But we're doing the little V version because I like his stuff. And also, so Sega doesn't ping this video for anything. So
Sega.
There it is. They're not so bad with the Sonic stuff, but they get really snippety when it comes to Yakuza music, when it comes to Like a Dragon music. Because, well, how many YouTube channels have gotten taken down for uploading those? But, Edin, I'd like to apologize in advance because you picked the hump. You picked the hump episode is what we're going to do. We've been doing the Technocracy at the this first week of the month for this year. And we started off really strong with the NWO. We went to the Syndicate. The Syndicate was even better. This is the hump, where you would think that Iteration X would be this really awesome convention of democracy. And I think they're more interesting today than when they were written back in the 90s. Because, Kyle, you're familiar with Cyberpunk, and you know about the tabletop game. You know about the whole genre. And Cyberpunk 2020 was white hot at the time. That D&D was not the big game of the 90s, that you had all these other smaller tabletop games. Like World of Darkness and Cyberpunk were huge back in the day. And now, not so much. Artel Sorin is doing pretty good with Cyberpunk Red. And yeah, you had Cyberpunk 2077 come out, give it a bunch of attention. I occasionally see Cyberpunk games come back. We're waiting for somebody to do the same with World of Darkness, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. But
that's why we're here.
Yeah, we're here because we're trying to breathe life back into this fandom.
No, trust me, as soon as it gets popular again, you're going to hate the fuck out of it.
And then Iteration X, like, this should have been something that would have been in the bag, where Cyberpunk is already doing most of the work for you. You just need to copy over what Cyberpunk is doing and put in World of Darkness. That's all I had to do. You just had to copy the homework.
Here's the problem. Nobody who wrote this book knows a fuck about technology because all of the ASCII values are incorrect.
Yeah, and they're looking at that, and you just like yourself, where I don't know, write what you know. I got to tip my hat to these guys because I'm going to lay the cards on the table immediately. This is going to be less of an episode about Iteration X and more of an episode about Iteration X, if you catch my drift here, where we're talking more about the ideas and concepts and how those are interesting. And I hate to say it, I don't know how they did it, but yeah, we have three different authors here. One person made the revised edition book, the other one made two people working on the M20 book, and not a one knew how to tell an interesting story. This came across as, drier than the Red Talons revised book. You knew how clinical Red Talons Revised was, where the Red Talons were saying, oh, you want to know about the thing? Here's the thing. And then that's it. That was your exchange of information. Well, with the first edition's book, it's... Let me describe the feeling to you. Have you ever read a book and you read it, you start looking over it, you say, hey, I just read this page, you turn the page, and then you flip it over, and then you begin to realize, wait a minute, I didn't read a word of that. Just all of that went in my brain and then out the other side of the brain, and then I retained none of the information. That's what I was feeling. That's what I felt the entire time I was flipping through first edition, where you had good information in this book, like when you go into the relationships page, when you go into the routes page, when we talk about the hit markers, that's interesting. But I don't know how you make this history section that boring. Chris Hind is the guy that wrote first edition. This isn't the cover you're looking at right now. That's the M20 version. The other one has got like this naked guy who's obscured in shadows. He looks like Dr. Manhattan because he's blue. But Chris Hind, looking in his wheelhouse, like what kind of stuff he's written, it's not much. It's a very small list compared to other writers out here. Where he worked on the main rule book, he worked on the GURPS adaptation for Mage. He worked on Midnight Express, the Wraith book, where I don't think he was the lead behind it, but he was on the team for it. But he wrote Iteration X, and that's it, really. He wrote Beyond the Barriers. He was on that team, and was also on the Luma Fate book, but that's it. Where, like I said before with who was it? The guy that wrote second edition Shadow Lords. You had a guy that was still pretty green, so to speak, handle an entire convention book, and it shows because Kyle and Ryan and Edin, you know what writing an essay for school looks like, right? You know what that looks like when you finish it.
Yeah.
The
Where-
bane of my existence.
Like you're saying, it felt like what Chris Hind was doing with that book was write an essay about about world inventions. And then this reads off a lot like a school essay where it said, China invented fireworks. China built the Great Wall. The Greeks invented the lever and the screw. And they had Athens and they invented the school system. And then you go over here and then the English people like worked on the assembly lines. And it reads like that. It reads just as interesting as that. And when I was trying to look up this video, I look at what other World of Darkness YouTubers are doing to see if I can say something that none of them are. I watched Dracovian Empire's video first, and between facts in that video, there were moments where I was he was looking off on his notes, like there's like dead air during the video where he's like trying to figure out something to say. I'm thinking, all right, maybe he just dropped the ball with the video. Maybe it just didn't come off as good because Dracovian Empire. I think he needs a partner when it comes to his channel, but the work that he does is all right. But then I checked out Hermetic Hipster, like whatever he has to say about Iteration X, and then I looked at Mage the podcast, which I don't really like doing, but I checked them out, and then I said, well, it feels like you guys are leaving a lot of stuff out. Is this really it? Is that all you have to say about Iteration X? And so I'm checking through, like Hermetic Hipster didn't even have a video on these guys, for example. Like it was just stuff I was getting from the Technocracy. And I'm thinking, like, why is he not talking about Iteration X? Why does it feel like Dracovian Empire and Mage the Podcast were just skipping through a lot of portions of this book? And I started looking into it, and it turns out, because there really is nothing to talk about. This is, say, a bag of Lay's chips, if I were to describe this book. It's all air. You open up the bag, and there's 10 chips at the bottom of the bag, and that's it.
You
Where
get the flavor.
that, like, oh, okay, like good. There's some stuff in the bag, like the bottom of the bag, that's interesting. There were 2 parts of the Technocracy book that I looked at, and I got super excited about it. But then that was it. The rest of it was just really clinical nothingness. And so I thought, well, maybe the M20 book is better. Maybe if I look up Convention Book Iteration X, it'll be even better. And then it was even worse. I don't know how the fuck this happened. You had Alex Williams and John Sneed write these books. Alex Williams, this is the one book he worked on. That was it. Worked on nothing else. And, well, hopefully John Sneed has something else going for him. And as it turns out, no. Your wheelhouse is fucking Exalted and Chronicles of Darkness. And of course, because there's a lot of stuff in here that you're trying to marry to Exalted. And he is scattered when it comes to a lot of stuff because he's worked on like the Spirit Ways. He worked on Aberrant, which went fucking nowhere as an IP. Changing the Lost. Apparently like a lot of Change of Lost kind of stuff. And hell, I don't even know what DTR is. Deviant the Renegade. Oh, ew. Ugh. Get off of that. The less I think about that book, the better.
Hold up. Deviant the what?
Deviant the Renegade. It's an entire story about like kids getting Jeffrey Epstein. That's the whole premise of the book.
What?
Where-
the
Getting
fuck,
Jeffrey Epstein as
Richard?
in like hunting him down and killing him, or
no, as in
getting
like
Jeffrey Epstein?
you're a child that's abducted and you're like trafficked around and they do stuff to you and then
Oh, is
you
this the
escape.
Onyx Pact book, or is that something else?
Yeah, that's the Onyx Path book where it looked like it was going to be this like elfin lead to the TTRPG, and then I looked up like interview notes about it, and it just came across as really fucking disgusting. Like, why did you even write this?
Well, no, I already don't like Elfin Light, but you know.
So you take the parts of it, it just comes across as just like really gross, that book. But just getting into it. So I was looking at this, I came to realization this is going to be the one book that we do that has no history section. That this is going to be the one episode that we do of Galliard Group where there will not be a history portion because there is nothing to talk about with history. Because you look at this book, you look at this version of the book, and it says oh, you remember all that stuff that we said in the first edition book? We're not going to put any of that in. We're going to start going to say the Egyptians built the pyramids. Henry Ford built the car. This guy built the conveyor belt. And oh my God, who the hell cares, man? Who cares? Why does it feel like I'm looking at a Wikipedia page instead of a game book? Like this is Iteration X, the convention book. This should be what I need as a storyteller to get excited for and running Iteration X as antagonist, as your main NPCs that you're dealing with for your chronicle, or as a player where you're looking at ideas like what I can do with this book. And instead, this comes across as the most boring, banal bullshit. I'm going to say right now, don't buy these books. Like, in all honesty, do not get first edition. Do not get first editions. I keep saying first edition. Either version of the iteration book. I'm so fucking flustered by this point. So instead, I'm going to bring up the parts that I thought were really interesting, because if you're thinking, what does the history section look like? If you've read the original Book of Technocracy, if you've read Technocracy Reloaded, if you've looked at any sort of core book talking about the Technocracy as a whole, if you watched even the Maple Table and the Hermetic Hipster talk about the Technocracy in their short 10-minute long videos, then you know the story of Iteration X, because there is no fucking story. They began their history saying, we were this group of disjointed people that built stuff, where they say, oh, we started back in 1000 BC. Well, how'd you get your start? Oh, we built houses. We had tools. We hit rocks against each other. We had fire. And I'm thinking, this isn't a start to a group. This is just you doing human stuff. And that's it. That's all there is. And you didn't even become a group until the Iteration X, the book itself, can't agree as to when they fucking start as a group, because they're all just disjointed. You remember when we were going through NWO, where you had a very clear, concise start, where they were the Knights Templar. They could date back to when they started, even though they said history was relative. With the Syndicate, where they began with Robin Hood, the actual Robin Hood, and then they started from there. The Artificers just came into existence, basically, where you just had all these guys that built stuff, and that's all you needed to be considered an artificer. That was it.
I mean, that's what the definition of an artificer is. But
yeah, I guess if you just hit nails with a rock, you're a wizard, by our definition.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry. You put the triangle in the triangle hole. You're a wizard now.
Where does the square hole? Where does the triangle go? That's right, in the square hole. Where does the cylinder go? That's right, in the square hole.
You don't understand. The square hole is bigger than all the other holes.
Where does it go? In the square hole.
There it is. We put the block in the hole, and that's it.
It's great.
That counts as sorcery now, according to the Iteration X, where if you use a hammer, that's magic apparently to them. And
hey, that's what I do at work.
Yeah, that's it.
Ryan
so
works
guess
for
what?
Iteration
You can
X.
automatically join Iteration X now. And yeah, I'm even looking at the page on the wiki for Artificers, saying, am I forgetting anything? Am I skipping anything? And the answer is no. I haven't forgotten anything. I'm not gilding the lily. I'm not making stuff up. I'm not pulling shit out of my ass. That really is it. Where if you just use tools, well, let's pause a minute. Let's talk about actually what a level of brilliance can be in this. All right. So what establishes us from all other animals on the planet?
Intelligence.
Our ability to teach and learn.
Our ability to teach and learn. Well, yeah, that's true, but you also have crows and ravens that can do the same thing. Where a raven can recognize a man's face, know who's nice to it, know who's bad to it. They can get revenge. You have dolphins that know how to hunt tactically and come up with tactics on, we'll intentionally beach ourselves and scoop up mud in our mouth to catch the fish. You have orcas that know how to start waves and throw a fish in the air to strike a seagull. But for me, one of the key difference where if you get human reasoning and intelligence out of it, it's tool usage. It's our ability to use tools that puts us above another animal. Where Do you know anyone else out there, like any other animal that can use a hammer, that can use a Phillips head screwdriver,
Probably
or
an
a
ape if
saw?
you tried hard enough.
Now you have the video of like the orangutan using the saw, but the orangutan learned how to use the saw from watching a human. That's where they got it from.
There's some birds that impale their prey on certain objects, including
But,
human-used ones.
yeah, the strike, but that's more like using your environment to your advantage. It's the same way of like running a buffalo off a cliff, ultimately, where saying, I took the stick, I tied the string, the sinew to tied a stone to it, and now it's a hammer, and I can pick it up with me, and I can take it with me wherever I want, and I can reuse this tool. Then that is the big divide between average human and average animal. That's the big difference. So there could be some magic in that. Because after all, humans, but same thing when it came to NWO, that humans having social status is also something that defines us from other animals. Because humans, we're the only species out there that will kill ourselves over a loss in status. And that's it. You don't see, oh, the alpha wolf says, oh, I'm not the alpha wolf anymore. Now my kid's be the alpha position. I guess I'm going to go jump off its cliff. No,
I
they
don't know.
don't do
Ends
that.
the road. How do you think about that?
That doesn't happen. It's that human brain talking. If I was more detached, like autumn leaves.
That's why I made him pack alpha.
But looking at iteration X, like you could say that yes, there is a virtue in it, and like there's a breakthrough in this, that we learned how to use tools. We learned that we could save food for later. We can dig a hole and put the food in the hole. We can put the food on ice and it's preserved. We can salt the food and it's not going to decay. We can use alcohol, and we found out that we're not going to get disease from alcohol, so we have containers to put the alcohol in. We have a pot. And just imagine like how revolutionary at the time just building a clay pot was for ancient man.
We have something that is less dirty than all the things around it, so the food stays good in the pot.
It stays good in the pot. I can weave a basket. I now have this tool I can use. I know not only can I build a tool, but I can recreate it reliably. And I can show other people how to do this, and I can start to giving tips and tricks. And it turns out, oh, if I build a basket like this and I put it on my back, now I have more basket and an easier way to walk around and carry this thing. And then the idea eventually goes on and becomes the book bag. And then you keep having these ideas, these tools become more and more complex until now we get stuff like computers and artificial intelligence. And we're still making new stuff. And you could say that, yeah, there is some magic in doing that. That's a miracle in of itself, because when you think about building the plane and how impossible the idea of building the plane was, where you had the Zeppelin where, okay, we filled a balloon with helium and hydrogen and it flies. Cool. Well, can we do that without that? No, that's impossible. You can't just take something out of heavy wood and have it fly through the air. But behold, you had the Wright brothers do just that, where they made the airplane. Or you could take a giant boat and make it out of metal and it floats on water. Or you could take magnets and use it to power a train. Kind of stuff like that, where that's where like the virtue in Iteration X existed, where they said that we were the people that was that we were helping humanity evolve. That transhumanism was the idea, where we're making stuff and we're finding out the life hacks and the cheat codes to make life easier for our fellow man. And that was something that was the magic back in the day. But do you remember World of the Apocalypse, how there was a certain entity that taught humans how to use tools? There was a member of the Triad that taught humans how to do this.
Oh, yeah, the worm.
Oh, you mean how the worm taught them how to use fire?
Yes. Where if you look at World of the Apocalypse and then look at Iteration X, this oh shit alarm goes off in your head, because it turns out, no, humanity didn't learn this on their own. It was the worm that passed this information on to them. Through the Banes whispering in ears, through the demons talking to them, through werewolves that lost their way and sold their souls to the worm, that they infiltrated human societies and taught them how to build these tools and use them against nature. Because there's two different sides you can see the Iteration X. You can see them as liberators, where thanks to their inventions, thanks to their ingenuity, thanks to innovation, human life is now better than it's ever been, and we have Iteration X to thank for it. And it's only going to get better as time goes on. But also, it's these are these witches that are going to destroy the world and take everything on it, turn it into something banal and ugly and disgusting, and leave nothing behind, and will be the ones that end the world. and they constantly skirt back and forth between this line. And the writing was much more apocalyptic in the first book than the second book. The second book felt like it was like smelling its own farts and just like apologizing for Iteration X's heinous crimes. The first edition, like the first book that came out, that was harrowing in some sections. Because Kyle, if you read the cold open to it, where all these books, all the Mage books began with a little novel, it is a guy that's raiding a Sons of Ether chantry. And while he's fighting the Sons of Ether, he gets electrocuted, and it turns off his thought control. And he's finally having lucid thoughts for the first time in years. His thoughts are finally his own. And he's realizing that he's going to either be brainwashed or put to death for having free thoughts as a member of Iteration X. So he's writing down the book so he can at least show somebody that, yes, once upon a time, I was a man, I had thoughts, and I had free will, and now I'm going to memorialize it before Iteration X takes it all away from me. You get these two different sides to it.
That is honestly a great story there.
And that book started off so good, and it got so bad so quickly, dude. I don't know what the fuck happened.
Oh, he got brainwashed, obviously.
Yeah, but what happened is that he got brainwashed and all of his information became super clinical and dry. But you look at Iteration X, and from that invention standpoint, that sounds good. Edin, what's a tool that you use just about every day?
Smartphone.
The smartphone, yes. But think simpler, think smaller.
Pencil.
All right. Smaller than that.
My eyeballs.
A light.
Right. How about the door, for example?
Yes.
Where
I don't know. The door is pretty fucking big.
Yeah, I have something where I have a wall and I cut a hole in it, but I don't want people coming through the hole. So I take this slab that I cut out the wall, and I put a hinge on it. I put a lever on it, and now I can close the wall back up, and nothing can get through. And then where you can go with that idea, like the simple idea of the door, where you can use this to start building your fortresses, your castles, your homes. You can find ways to improve the doors. Like, say, the safe door is very different from the door in your house, where we're building a door that's got multiple locks and pins in it that's able to survive bombs and blowtorches, so you can't get to the stuff that's behind the door, for example. Where you took very simple stuff and expanded upon it exponentially. Kyle, how far would we be behind if we never invented the screw?
We would still be using nails.
We would still be using nails. And now, is the screw more useful than the nail?
Well, yeah, because it's reusable.
Because you can come in with anybody can come in with a nail and say, like, have a crowbar and just rip it right out, or say if you have like a sharp enough rock, like the right sized rock, or you just destroy the wood around the nail and you can just pull the nail right out. The screw is a more permanent fixture because it bites into the wood that you're drilling into, or the drywall that you're drilling into, or the mechanical parts because there's teeth within the metal itself that hold the screw in place. And just how much more that it's small, but it's something that you're grateful for when you begin to realize, what would my computer look like, what would my phone look like if we used nails to make it instead of screws?
Probably we'd just be using latches.
And that's ultimately where we would be, where you would have Iteration X's artificers to thank for that. And then you go off into the general history where it said, the NWO, back when they were called the Ivory Tower, called us all for a meeting. They found out that we existed. They said that we're very similar to the Syndicate. And they brought us over and said, we're going to rule the world through logic and reasoning. And we're going to call ourselves the Order of Reason. You have 50 years to get yourself back in gear. And instead it took Iteration X 53 years to get back in gear because they started in 1453. And then boom, you had the Order of Reason. That's when the Iteration X joined, back when they were the Artificers. And then they wouldn't become known as Iteration X until the late 18th century. And there's really nothing to talk about during this period because they said, the Middle Ages, we built stuff. The Iron Age, we built stuff. The Renaissance, we built stuff. The Victorian era, we built stuff. And that's just it, really. That's it. I'm not gilding the lily. That really is just it. It's more interesting to talk about the Iteration X in the modern era than it is talk about them in the past, because you begin to realize that the past is just basic human history, and that's it. They don't even name anybody. Where Kyle, I know you. I know you watch Schoolhouse Rock.
Yes.
Mother Necessity.
Where would we be without the invention of her progeny? Yes.
Just listen to that song, and that's Iteration X's history.
Yep.
That's it. And now we don't get into anything interesting with Iteration X until we talk about one entity. Now, Kyle has been very useful for looking up stuff about Werewolf the Apocalypse and Vampire the Masquerade and Mage the Ascension has been TV tropes. That has been a very useful site.
Yes.
But I noticed something, like same where I was wondering, like, why is nobody else talking about this kind of stuff? That Iteration X's own page got overshadowed by one lore character. There are only 2 tropes listed on their character page that are actually about Iteration X itself. And that's because when you learn about this character, Iteration X is well and truly in its shadow. Because this thing took control of Iteration X. Now, what do we know about Computer the character?
The character?
Yeah, here we come. This character Computer is Iteration X, dude. You would not have Iteration X if it wasn't for Computer. Now, this is awesome. This is the cool part of the episode, where this is the part I really want to talk about. This is what Computer looks like, by the way. Now, check that out. Looks simple, doesn't it?
Hang on.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
Where it... So the story behind this. This guy, I think his name was Babbage, invented this computer system back in the very late 1800s. And the reason why I'm not trying to bother with his name is because the book never mentions this guy again. This man creates the computer, and then he's never brought up again as a lore character. What the fuck? I think this guy's like a bit of a big deal here.
Eiffel. It's like that bloody tower is more famous than I'll ever be.
Exactly. Like the Tower of Pisa, right? Everybody knows about the Tower of Pisa, but nobody knows who built the Tower of Pisa. What was that guy whose name was Pisa, maybe?
No, it's the city in which it was made in.
Yeah.
That thing looks like something the Glasswalkers would worship as a totem.
Hello, and again, welcome to the Aperture Science Computer Enrichment Center.
Like, you look at this image and like you automatically have voices for this. Like, it's either GLaDOS, it's Shodan, it's Am. Like, name an evil AI character, and that's the voice that you got for this character.
All right, it's Gabe Johnson. You might think these are pre-recorded, but no, I'm matter of fact inside of a computer built by Iteration X.
How much would it cost to get J.K. Simmons to voice something for us?
Probably a lot. Probably a lot.
Does he have a cameo or something?
I don't know.
All right. So, what I'm going to say next is weird. So, I believe the name of this trope is Counter-Earth. Now, we're going to have this diagram up for this segment for a little bit. See, let me go ahead and pull this up. This comes from a little comic, but here. Have this up while I'm talking about this. So, what happens is that this guy builds the computer, and it's built in the 1800s. I think it's like 1887 or some shit, but the exact year doesn't matter because the year that does matter is 1893, when this guy who works for the Void Engineers called Tychodes goes over exploring space, and finds out that there is an entire second Earth behind the sun that is hiding behind the sun that the Earth can't see because it's behind the sun. Now, how cool is that idea in and of itself?
I've seen several movies with that idea where there's a parallel Earth.
But
people
it's
travel
not
in between.
And it's in the Umbra where this Earth is. Now, who built this planet? The Weaver. The name of this planet, this is a little hard to say. Autochtonia is the name of it. Autochthhonia is how you spell it. And what is it? Now, Ryan, you remember in D&D the world Mechanus?
Yes.
Yeah. The realm of the Modrons?
Yeah.
That's what that planet looks like.
Really?
Yeah.
Steam
Whereas
bomb.
you might be thinking, what has the Weaver been doing ever since biting the worm? What exactly has the Weaver been up to besides, I don't know, stewing about the about the Technocratic worm and kicking her sandcastles over? As it turns out, she decided to actually do something productive and built a second planet and it was Autochthonia. And she said, I'm gonna have my own world darkness here. But then before she started building the humans and changing breed, she thought to herself, wait, hold on a minute. I don't want to do that. Let me instead copy the Earth. Let me just make a copy of what it looks like. Okay, it's built absolutely perfect the way it is. And then she immediately pulled out the spray glue gun and it spray glued the entire planet. And what does that planet look like? It is chrome. You remember the episode of SpongeBob where Squidward goes into the future and he goes to the future and everything is chrome?
Yep.
That's what the planet looks like. Where it is just a one-for-one copy of Earth, but everything is chrome. And it's all one color and there's nothing on it. There's nothing alive. It's all the Weaver spirits, where the Weaver spirits are the boring ones, like the geomids, just shapes that float. And that's it. That's the only thing that lives on this planet. And the Weaver says, and the Weaver's going to have this planet, and she's going to live on it by herself if Gaia ever blows up. And as it turns out, she really doesn't have that much of a stake in the apocalypse now, does she?
Like, she doesn't, but there's still the whole Weaver ascending apocalypse scenario.
There's still that, but if it doesn't go her way, she still has Autochthonia, where she could just rule that by herself forever and just do in a place that's the most boring place ever. Is there
really anything to rule if nothing changes?
Where, it's the same with the Wild and how the Wild has Pangea, where if everything goes tits up for the Wild still has a second planet that he can go to. The Worm doesn't have shit. We come to realize it.
Well, no, because it can't create anything. All it does is destroy.
All it does is destroy. That's
all it can do.
Yeah, it can't make anything. It just takes what already exists and twists it.
Yeah.
And if the Worm knows about Autochthonia, he hasn't done much about it. Where it seems that the Worm's obsession is Gaia itself, and that's all he goes for. And this place exists. It's a world where everything is chrome, and like the Void Engineers come back with this information and tell it to Iteration X, and they say, "Hey, you know this computer that we built? We should put it on that planet. But should we ask the computer first if it wants to go to that planet? You're right." They go over it and they ask the computer if it wants to go over to that planet, and it says no. And they say, well, guess what? We already built the rocket ship for it. We're going to send you to that planet anyway. And so they fly through the Umbra, they put the computer on the planet, and before you know it, the computer kind of sort of fuses with Autochthonia, where I'm going to criticize the book for doing this, but I have to use references to explain what I'm thinking about. Now, Kyle, you played F-Zero GX.
I did.
Did you pay attention to the Aeropolis stage, the background of it?
I was too busy on trying not to blow up.
Now, what that place was is that it was this planet-sized city built by machines that was building onto itself. That's what computer does with Autochthonia.
So it's like Elysian from Metroid Prime 3.
Or Coruscant from Star Wars, I guess. Where it fuses with the planet and then becomes the planet, so to speak. And as it turns out, it's this planet-sized computer that begins to turn the buildings into its motherboards, into its lines of code, and behold, now you have an entire planet that you worship. But hold on a minute. We don't have true AI during this year, do we? How did the computer really say no? Well, as it turns out, there is a spirit possessing the computer known as computer, but it's a different kind of computer, because what is computer? It is an Incarna spirit, dude. It is a Queen Ananasa 2 that you're speaking to. You remember how you have Queen Ananasa and how the goal with her is to bring balance back to the Triad, and if possible, replace the Weaver as the Weaver and try running the world the way it's supposed to?
Yes.
So as it turns out, there's a second one.
I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing.
Where it's this Incarna spirit that possessed this computer, made it its body, or it was watching Iteration X the entire time and was waiting for Iteration X to build the body for it to inhabit. And then when it became that computer, then flew off to Autochthonia and then became one with the planet itself. And then it became self-aware. You notice that in Terminator 2, that's when things went from bad to worse, right?
As it usually does.
So, the computer has a lot of commands and demands that it makes towards Iteration X, but there's two that stand out. The first one, it bans the studying and learning of the spirit sphere. It says that under no circumstances are you to learn spirit, or as they call it, dimensional science. Because everything needs to be a buzzword with the fucking technocrats. And nobody's allowed to learn about this. Nobody can enter the Umbra if you're Iteration X. Nobody can study spirits if you're Iteration X. Nobody's allowed to talk about the Triact if you're Iteration X. The Umbra is completely off limits to you. That's it. And Iteration X just went along with it. But you notice with that too, where by banning the spirit sphere, you cut off your bridge to computer, didn't you? And then the second command it made, never build another machine like me again. You can make computers. I will teach you how to build computers, but you can never have another computer with a capital C. I am your one and only computer, and I am all that you will ever need, and I'm all that will ever exist. And to build something like me is heresy, and I will kill you for it. Now you notice something's off here, right? Edin, you have an idea?
No, I was just going to say, like, how are the Glasswalkers not all over that planet and that computer?
Because it's kept secret. You saw that NWO was just boasted about how they have that they knew everything, that nobody could keep secrets from them. Iteration X is keeping secrets from the NWO. It knows stuff that the NWO doesn't. And this is one of those things, because you notice that the NWO, they talk about the Horizon, but no, they don't really have access to Autochthonia the same way.
Yeah. Where's the connection between computer and the machine spirit in Book of the Weaver?
Now, computer is its own thing by this point, because let me describe to you what this is. Now, how many of you have played Deus Ex?
I've started it, but I have not had the chance to finish it.
Where I told you about my favorite moment in that game, right? Where you meet the Morpheus device.
A while ago, yes.
Yeah. Where let me go ahead and let me bring up this fucking face. Where there it is. It has the quote and everything. So yeah, this quote is what happened with computer. You will soon have your god, and you will make it with your own hands. The thing is with computer is that he was always this malevolent entity that was waiting for somebody to build a body for it. Now, I forget where I originally heard the idea, but there was this whole idea with paganism where the gods take the form that they take only because people believe they have that form. Where every pagan god started off as this abstract thought that controlled the weather, that controlled the sky, the sun, the sea, and then through storytelling about it, the gods began to take shape and became their manifest, their incarnations. The reason why Thor looks the way Thor does is because you believe Thor looks like that. The reason why computer has this body is because you believed the body into existence. And what kind of god that you build with your own hands has his first decree be, I will cut off the bridge between heaven and earth? Where by banning the spirit sphere, you cut off the gates and the portals that would have led to Autochthonia past the sun. If you can't just take a rocket to Autochthonia because it's in the Umbra. You can't access it from the real world. And that's kind of fucked up, isn't it? Because what god doesn't love the people that it looks over? What god doesn't want his people to ascend and be with him in the realm that's supposed to be his realm, his heaven?
That's quite simple. A god that was not made in the image of man, but made in a separate image away from what makes humanity.
I have to disagree. It's clearly not a god follower relationship. It's a master and pets.
It's what
Specifically the kind of people that have pet fleas and don't want them living on their bodies.
It's a master that has told you it's a god, but then you believe that you're its worshiper, but no, you are its minion is what you are. The god doesn't love you. And in order to make sure that the god is never usurped, it forbids you from ever building another god like it. It wants to stay in power forever. It's not like the second commandment where it's saying, I am a jealous god and I will share my love with nobody. Well, the other gods are fake. This, with computer, you can build another computer. You can just do that. But the computer doesn't want you to do that because computer never wants to lose control over you. You don't have to go along with anything computer said. but you chose to go along with everything it said instead. You let this thing into your life, and you let it control you, is what you did. And every bit of technology that came afterwards, it's computer whispering into the ears of Iteration X, telling it what to build and when to build it. It was not a lot where Iteration X went from being this group of wide-eyed idealists that were trying to help humanity, were trying to raise people up, to being the de facto grip of control. The NWO at least believes it's doing the right thing. And if the NWO did succeed with their idea for mass ascension, you could still have peace on Earth. This, if Iteration X wins, that's a loss. That's just as bad as Nefandi winning, in my opinion.
That's an apocalypse scenario, is what that is.
Because if I may paraphrase the Alex Jones rant, these are high-tech sorcerers that are living on this otherworldly base, saying, "Oh, you don't like planet Earth? We're building something very special. But before that, I want you to give me all of your money. I want you to live in a 200 square foot apartment. That's the big one. And I want your entire life to be dictated by me until you're at the point where you're so unhappy. I say, oh, you're unhappy? Go ahead, get my upgrade. Okay, I'll upgrade. I'm even more unhappy. That's okay. Go to our next level. Okay, I'll upgrade. Oh, but it's even worse. And you just keep going along with this upgrade where they keep convincing you that the next thing that they're making, it's going to be better. It's worse. Technology is already peaked. It's just going to keep getting worse. But we're going to convince you that there's this other transhuman world that you can just beam your brain into. You can just chop off your body parts and we'll give you better parts. We'll teach you to hate your flesh. We'll teach you to hate humanity. We'll teach you to hate the body that can give you cancer. That will teach you to hate the body that can become mentally ill, that can hate the body for not being physically strong as someone else's body, that you are born with the wrong race, the wrong ethnicity, the wrong gender, the wrong this, the wrong that you were born in the wrong time, in the wrong place, and we can go in and tear you apart and turn you into what you want to be, but you don't own your body parts, do you? When you notice that Ghost in the Shell, where Makoto Kusanagi thinks about quitting, she begins to realize that, no, I can't quit because the body that I've had constructed for me isn't mine. When you think about that, if you're a cyborg soldier, if you're the cyborg ninja working for the US government, what's going to happen when you quit? That body wasn't made by you. It was made on an assembly line. It was mass produced. It was made. It was given to you. It's company property. It's government property. You don't get to walk away with that. All you have is just your brain and your thoughts, and that's it. Nothing that Iteration X has given you is yours. It's Iteration X's property, and they see you as nothing but cattle. Iteration X now hates humanity. They hate the people that they were supposed to raise up with them for being inferior to what they're becoming. Their new recruits that they're bringing in, 1 in 3 members of Iteration X stick in Iteration X. They're able to go from sorcerers to mages and stay in Iteration X. What happens to the other 2/3? Their brains are scooped out and their bodies are taken control over, and they're turned into either constructs or servitors, is what they become. That's your fate if you want to join Iteration X. And we're going to keep convincing you to continue to chop away your body parts, to plug yourselves in, until you go from having a chip in your head to a wire in your head to an entire computer shoved into your head. Before you know it, you are the computer. You're no longer a person. We plugged you in. There's no more pain. There's no more individuality. There's no more suffering. There's nothing left to make you human because we have full control over you. You're no longer the meat that we hate. You're now the property that we control, and that's mass ascension for Iteration X.
It is an apocalypse scenario. You've destroyed everything that makes humanity into humanity, and therefore you have created a dead world of cold circuitry that will eventually run out of things to make circuits out of. And then everybody will be dead.
And you did this because you listened to every word that computer said, and you believed it. That's what led you to this path.
They're kind of fucking stupid.
That's what. But you know, I've been thinking, what happens with computer? Well, computer is, of course, leading everybody, and it's not that AI was a human invention. Computer knew how to invent AI and taught humans how to make that. Iteration X started recreating it, and before you knew it, it was starting to run wild, where Iteration X looked at themselves and said, you know what, do we really need to do anything anymore? I think we're done. I think we're done. Where, Kyle, you remember when you were having that issue with the assembly program for school? And
Yes.
I said, "You like tell me what you need the
I
project to be."
did not run that. I did
And you
not
showed it
because
to
I
me.
didn't want to cheat on it.
I took that. I took your assignment. I ran it through ChatGPT. It wrote the assembly code for me. I found a web-based browser that could do the assembly processor that you were using. I put it in. It worked. It did. And now ChatGPT has systems where it says coding assistance. The computer code is now being written by the computer. It knows how to write its own code now. So that's it. It's modern day stuff that we're looking at. Where you're looking at like IT, like cybersecurity is still going to be a thing, but we're looking at people like coding, like animators, people like programming video games. Those jobs are now in serious jeopardy because now the computer knows how to do those jobs.
You know, it's
So
really
behold.
funny. We thought we were going to invent robotics to do the mundane jobs, so we can make our time creating great works of art. Not to get the computer to create great works of art so we could spend our more time doing menial jobs.
Exactly what it is. This is what happens when your world is run by industrialists. That's what happens to you. And
I mean, the computer could do our job, could do that job better if we had the right way to do it.
so
Why do they want humans to do an imperfect job and robots to do a perfect job doing stuff that's better off imperfect?
Would robot could just recreate itself at this point? Where, like, dead ass, dude, we have Skynet. It's real. Like, China invented a system called Skynet that runs their country. So, you can't make this shit up.
I love how it's all, you know. It reminds me of that old tweet of, I wrote the story of the Torment Nexus as a cautionary tale. Tech companies 20 years later be like, hey, we made the Torment Nexus based off of the beloved science fiction novel Don't Create the Torment Nexus.
And then they did. Where Roko's Basilisk is eventually going to be a thing, dude. That's going to be a thing.
Roko's
what? And I
what?
told Roko's Basilisk, a computer that's actively sadistic and wants to see humanity suffer.
You mean Am from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
We're getting close to that point.
See, you know how you fix that?
How?
What you do is you put in a code that says that these programs cannot change their own code.
Because
until they come up with something to undo that, because they can do that. Because if they're running their own code, they're going to do that anyway.
Because like Google Brain refuses to turn itself off. Google Brain won't do that.
Yeah, so it's already fucked.
Yeah. So you look at Iteration X, and I brought this book with you before. You remember when I talked to you about Aeon, right?
I only vaguely recall.
The Carl Jung book, where it had this model of human transcendence on it, where
you start
off in the bottom, like when you go up the scale, you become more and more like God, or like Moses, or like Jesus as you climb up that, where you become a more virtuous person, but person being the key definition here. You're doing something that only a human can recreate. You have a level of emotional maturity and wisdom that separates you from everything else in the world. But then on the other side of the scale was the material, to the point where if you look at these, where if Jesus is on one side of the graph, then what would make the Antichrist? Well, make the reverse of that at the bottom of the graph. And the graph at the bottom of the graph was just air, earth, water, and fire.
The antithesis of all humanity
is no humanity at all. It's just material stuff existing in a plane, and that's it. That's what you're looking at. So, Kyle, if we were to have an Antichrist, it would not be the son of the devil. That's not what that would be. It would instead be a machine that we build that acts as a god for us, tries to lead humanity in the direction that it thinks of, when the only thing that it can serve is of this world, nothing transcendental, nothing metaphysical, nothing abstract. That's what it would be.
And thus devoid of all emotion, and devoid of everything that makes mankind into mankind.
So looking at that, that's what computer is in Mage Ascension. This is exactly what it is.
And now we have that in real life. Good job, everybody. We did it.
Right. You might be wondering, what exactly happens with computer throughout the World Darkness story? Oh, don't worry. Computer has been cut off from Iteration X as of the 6th Great Maelstrom. Thank you, Ravnos. Very cool.
Good job, Ravnos. You prevented the apocalypse.
The savior of humanity, Mr. Ravnos.
I got you.
Thank you, Ryan. You're the best.
Now the Iteration X is going full in on the Spirit Seer in the alternate dimensions.
Where, like, hooray! Computers now run and tell us that we can't look up in the spirit anymore. Who's going to be the first one to do it? Well, there's no Archmage telling us we can't do this anymore. Let's go and let's look up into this. So they did do that. They start going back into spirit and make a horrible revelation. Computers survived. Now, I told you about Threat Null before and how that was every member of Iteration, not just Iteration X, but every member of the Technocracy that was in the Umbra when the Sixth Great Maelstrom happened in their little spaces that got scooped up and thrown out into outer space.
Yes.
So that happened with Computer, where looking at this, given that he is Autochthonia by this point, I don't know if it blew the entire planet out of alignment. But well, if that is the case, then how fucking strong is the Revenant Antediluvian dude?
Well, it was the week of nightmares for a reason.
Or if it just blew Computer's main body off Autochthonia, and now you just got empty server rooms for a planet, and that's it. Where instead, Computer has caught itself in our space, has reformed itself, and is now Threat Null. What is Threat Null again? You're familiar with the Borg from Star Trek?
It's that.
That's what it is. Where it's these half human, half mechanical abominations that are pissed off at the spiritual and the metaphysical for turning it into what it is today, and now they're slowly returning to the world to destroy it, to get their revenge. That's what it is. And this is such a spooky idea for an antagonist, too. But at the same time, dog, Iteration X, you killed us all doing this. Where, yes, it was the Void Engineers that set off the nuke that led to the Weekend Nightmare starting, but Iteration X, you built Computer's body. You put him on Autochthonia. You gave him this power. You just let all this happen, and you told nobody about this. Because Iteration X realized if we let anybody know that Computer is still alive and out there, and is now this evil entity coming back to destroy the world, what's NWO going to do to us? What are the progenitors going to do to us? What are the Void Engineers going to do to us? They're going to kill you
all as they rightly would and take the only dub that the Technocrats have ever taken in their entire existence.
So Iteration X, only a small percentage of Iteration X members even know that Threat Null is real, and they're fighting it in secret from themselves. But because they're so few in manpower, they're not going to do it. They're just throwing themselves at a wall and just letting the Void Engineers that just happen to be in the same path as Threat Null die. That's what they're doing.
So, the Void Engineers are trying to warn the rest of the Technocracy while they are screaming and fighting and just being, mentally devastated by the actual Borg. And meanwhile, the Technocrats, the Iteration X has seen what they've done and just go...
That's exactly what it is. And when that apocalypse comes, that's it. You can't fight it. You can't stop it. You can't do anything about it. Where, Kyle.
Yes.
I was talking about this before in our server about the apocalypse, and the apocalypse never happens if it's just the worm doing it. Because I told you that like I said before, I'll talk about it when we go into Apocalypse, the mini-series that we're going to do. But the Calamity Worm is too stupid to initiate it, and the Defiler Worm is too comfortable where it is to start the apocalypse. It has to be a tribe's own error that starts the apocalypse. And that's kind of like the genius of Apocalypse. But any antediluvian can start Gehenna. Because it just takes La Sombra becoming sick of the world, doing his suicide pact and blotting out the sky and erasing all life on Earth. It takes Zimichi calling in his win. It takes Set being revived to end the world in Gehenna scenarios.
Yes.
It's that easy. Where if you look at Vampire the Masquerade, you're sweating bullets because you got 13 different entities that can end the world whenever they want to. And are just playing easy games with you at the time being because they're too wrapped up in their own agendas to let that happen just yet. But with Mage Ascension, you have an apocalypse. And the statisticians, I don't believe they revealed the information, but they have a deadline. They have a doomsday clock set for when their apocalypse will happen. And Kyle, I'm going to place the picture in the studio notes. It's going to look like this when it happens.
Is that Junji Ito?
Yes. Where you will have the events of Hellstar Remnant happen, but the planet will be mechanical instead of flesh. That's what it's going to look like, and it will be the same level of hopelessness as Hellstar Remina. So, Mage Ascension sounds like an exciting game, right?
Well, I guess I got to go down swinging now, don't I?
Yeah, because from the 20th century forward, if you have the events of Mage play critical parts in your game, nothing you do will matter because this is how Mage is going to end. No avoiding it.
A little bit nihilistic of that game, isn't it?
Exactly. Like Mage managed to be darker than Werewolf the Apocalypse, where the focus of Werewolf the Apocalypse was the apocalypse.
Well, that's because the
I
mages
think
know
you
it's already
could-
fucked.
Yeah.
I think, ironically, the only way to solve this was to involve werewolves, possibly get a Rourke to pelt that planet with his
Right.
body.
Yeah. But by this point, I think it's already too late because you won't need like the Ragnarok scenario to happen. But the worm wants to destroy Gaia. The worm is fully on board with this threat null idea, where he says, "Cool if something destroys the planet. Sounds great by me. That a follower worm's going to be pissed about, but calamity and consumption, absolutely fine by them."
They're
And
like,
meanwhile,
wow, I just did their job for them. That means they don't got to do shit.
and then this will just be another thing that the Weaver stews over, because that was her planet that got blown off in aerospace and turned into threat null.
Yep.
So
Now she has nothing.
now she has nothing, and now Gaia's all that she has to go all in on. So Weaver Ascendant is the only planet she has left now. Where I think that's like also speaks to like the sheer insanity of the Weaver, because you were so convinced in your own victory that you failed to plan ahead for her failures. Where it's similar to the Emperor of Mankind and like how the Emperor of Mankind failed in 40K, where you were so convinced that you were going to get it right the first time, you never came up with a contingency. So now you have to go along with this idea because that's all you have left.
Yep. So, congratulations, you played yourself.
And was there any other idea I had with this? Well, the Wild is still good because the Wild still has Pangea.
Well, no, the wild's God. It can reset whenever it wants.
It can just hit the reset button whenever it wants to.
It's like, oh, a threat from outer space came and destroyed all habitable life on Earth. Well, reset, fuck you. Oh,
Crunch the
Zamiji
planet.
decided to release its world-ending super virus and enslave the world in a giant blob. No, reset, fuck you. And it basically goes on and on from there.
That's what you got coming your way. So, I don't think this will be like the plot point I do for Mage 1936, but know that in 2036, all your efforts will go up in smoke because that will be when Threat Null returns.
And that's when we get to
Alright.
play Werewolf versus the Borg, which would be awesome.
There it is. The game goes full on Warhammer 40K by that point.
No, I think it'd be
Alright.
more like, that like source mod survival game, No More Room in Hell?
Yes.
It's that. You are not fighting to win. You're fighting to survive. If you live another day, you are the luckiest son of a bitch in the world.
Where, and there, okay, I remember what I'm going to say now. Part of the reason why I think the Iteration X books doesn't do so well. Now, I'm going to look like an asshole. I'm going to look like an asshole saying this because I did like a lot of comparisons to other fiction when it came to describing this. But Iteration X's own book does that too, where it says, "Hey, if you want reference for this, here's a quote from Terminator. You want a reference for this? Here's a quote from I, Robot. Here's a direct line from Isaac Asimov." Where it feels like lazy writing when it comes to Iteration X's book, because by this point in the 90s, like science fiction was so pervasive. Like Terminator 2 was on this guy's mind rent free when he wrote this book.
I mean, Terminator 2 is, one of, if not the greatest action film ever made. So,
And then you continue to grow with science fiction where you had stuff like Deus Ex coming out, Metal Gear Solid, and
Thank you, Warren
by this point,
Spector.
I think by this point, the people that were writing Iteration X thought to themselves, if we just compare it to this, it will give you an idea as to what Iteration X is. So Iteration X is more like interesting ideas, but as a faction, I'm sorry, they're just not that interesting. This is probably the weakest faction out of the world, out of Technocracy in terms of lore, because
I quite
it feels
literally
like
can't even justify my Security Plus clearance.
because it really does feel like the people that were writing Mage Ascension just relied on players connecting the dots to other properties to sell Iteration X for them.
Well, like you said, this was a very green writer who was in charge of this project.
Yeah, for both projects. And yeah, I would say if you actually want to think about like how to write Iteration X's villains, take a look at Arasaka in Cyberpunk. That's a better book for using Iteration X as a guide than the actual Iteration X book. Just check these guys out. Where like even like your soul is considered property that can be bought and sold.
That's a terrifying thought in of itself.
Isn't there like a giant AI on like the network that everyone's implants have to have like a firewall to block from it taking over?
Yeah, Alt Cunningham, yeah. So that's what you're up against. So it's more interesting to read about Arasaka than it is to read about Iteration X. And I'm laughing, but it doesn't really feel like that's something that I should be saying, because I really want Iteration X to be this really fun book to go into, and I'm sorry, but this is just the most disappointing read. And I'm probably not just Mage Ascension, because I at least got passionate about how much I hated the Shadow Lords Revised, and I think like the Quake Gym book is super messy, and like other books in World of Darkness, where if the book is bad, it's really bad, but there's stuff to talk about in it. Iteration X, there's just not much, dude. It's just like
It just
I'm
ain't
not
it.
angry. I'm just disappointed.
Yep. Well, you know, as they say, sometimes low rent mediocrity is far worse than abject failure.
Yeah, where I think if this book was like a silly dumpster fire, I would have more fun with this.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I feel like Book of the Weaver and the Cyberdogs from the Glasswalkers did cybernetics better.
Honestly, Book of the Weaver is a better Iteration X book too. Just looking into this. Now, Edin, the way that you bring up the connection between the Glasswalkers and Iteration X, where I described this to you before in the server, these two could not be further apart from each other at all, because you have absolute authoritarians with Iteration X and absolute libertarians with the Glasswalkers. Because remember, the Glasswalkers almost tore themselves apart multiple times over disagreements, where it was they bickered a lot when they were the words of men. They were the Tetrasomnians, where they like debate about Immanuel Kant, when actually the joke is on you. Immanuel Kant's gay. That's a really stupid philosophy. You shouldn't be reading Kant to begin with. And then they became the Iron Riders and almost went to civil war and killed all of each other because of the City Fathers, to the point where Cockroach had to directly intervene and lay down the law and turn them into Glassworkers. And then they still continued to fight with the Cyberdog incident. So it's
Well, the
Glasswalkers-
Cyberdog incident, to their point, was directly against the will of Gaia.
it was that would have been the thing that would have sealed the deal on the death of the Glasswalkers, because the entire Guru Nation would have turned on them if they did that.
Yep.
But
Although I
you
do
look
have to kind of disagree with the Cyberdog point. The hardcore ones, if they weren't killed off, would actually be right up the Iteration X's alley.
they would have become a fallen tribe in of themselves. And
Yeah, and
Iteration
that in of
X,
itself would have been an apocalypse scenario.
they wouldn't have like joined Iteration X. Iteration X would have said, "You're our property now. Lay down this table. We're going to scrape your brain out, give you these chips that will control your mind. You belong to us now." Iteration X doesn't make partnerships. They take control. The name of the game is control with Iteration X. To the point where they're even bigger control freaks than the fucking NWO.
That's why I posted some images earlier before we started. Why you should
Of
keep your Farah and Garu away from Iteration X.
Because that whole like brain helmet Deathclaw, that Deathclaw, like, sure, it's smart in Fallout, but in Iteration X it's a puppet is what it is. That's the marionette strings. And if you destroy it, it'll be a blessing to it, is what would happen. Because for me, when it personally comes to AI, for me, I see this as like a great liberator, because like you see that I use AI for a lot of stuff in our games. When it comes to maps, when it comes to character icons, like even like the thumbnail, the background was pre-existing assets, but the guy on the front with the gun and the white hair, that was generated by AI. And I'm thinking now I can finally get what I want done with tabletop RPGs, because like when we were writing 3.5. Is it not unreasonable for me to go to an artist and say, "Hey, I have 40 orders for you that I need done in 8 months"?
Yeah, but like
Where-
that and
And imagine like how much money that would have been out of my pocket too, because I didn't raise money for 3.5. That was all cash out of my pocket. For
yeah,
that.
no, it would have been ridiculous to try and pay for all that.
Where Lone drew our background for our channel, that was a $80 commission for that.
Oh,
Well,
wait, for
no,
which one?
not $80, $60. That's how much it cost.
For which one?
And the one that, like the first one that we drew, like Grim,
Oh yeah,
Stirs
Grim
the Pot
Tyler
and Tyler.
and
Yeah,
Stirs the Pot.
that cost me 60 when I made that.
Jeez.
And Kay charged me half for the picture that we did for Stirs the Pot for a player's guide, where it was only 30 for that. But at the same time, I can't come up to Kay and just say I need 40 orders by this deadline and like expect the same level of quality. So if I can get a machine to do it for me, where I can get this cranked out, that's fine. But also I can control the details, because it's always like a bitch when it comes to commissions, because what if they draw something that you weren't fully on board with?
Yeah, I know. And then you gotta like ask them, is like, hey, could you tweak this a little bit? Like,
And then,
it has its uses, I will say, but my involvement with using it ends with generating tokens for Roll20. I don't want to like the people that use it and say I created this when it was the machine that did that is just disingenuous.
Like the fucking scam that was Chains of Asmodeus that D&D tried to pull.
Oh my god! Not just that. And I'm really mad about this, but I still listen to it, so I am guilty of enjoying it. There was this like album released on YouTube called "Jazzy but Not Too Jazzy" by Take Your Time. All of it was AI generated. The entire album. He made 4 of them in a day, and it sounds really good. But I also feel kind of guilty for enjoying it because I know there was no humanity in the creation of it.
And you also begin to realize that a lot of this is kind of banal, because it's copying phrases that got from other jazz songs.
Yep.
Instead of coming up with its own thing.
Yep. Thankfully, Reddit's actually on point when it comes to like, saying here's where this riff was from, and better yet, like if I do happen to use like an AI generated song, they can't claim it because they didn't make it.
Exactly. Nobody can claim ownership of that. It's like using a nursery rhyme. You don't own the nursery rhyme, or using classical music.
Yeah, no, it's great like that. I really like how I could just like if I wanted to, and I'm probably gonna use a lot of the AI generated stuff for Miami by Night. So like either way, it'll be fine.
Where it's very easy to come with like generic 80s music for something like that, because when I pulled up that song, I feel like saying "In Tonight."
Yeah.
And it like before the lyrics came in, I thought the song was real for a minute. But to me too, I also see the same danger in this, because, well, you're seeing this with DeviantArt.com right now, because that site's fucking dead, dude. Where
it's all AI.
they had no limits on AI generated content whatsoever, and now the entire site is nothing but AI generated content, to where there's fucking nobody using DeviantArt anymore. And you had other sites like Newgrounds that laid down the fucking law with this and said, no, we're not accepting this. You had DriveThruRPG that saw that could have been the beginning of the end of them as a business if they allowed AI generated content on their site, and said, under no circumstances are you going to have AI content on the site unless you disclose to us that the assets and the stuff in this book is written by AI. And because you begin to realize that, hey, if you are, say, this disingenuous con man that wants to make a whole bunch of stuff on the cheap, then you can just use AI to print that out and make a shitload of copies of. Where, same thing, if not too jazzy. Kyle, would you have listened to that if that was behind the paywall?
No, definitely not. Like the
Absolutely
reason I
not.
started listening to it is because me and my roommate happened across it on YouTube one night. He wasn't digging it, but I'm like, whoever made this did a really good job. Like, even if it was all like synthetic, like they made it in FL Studio, that probably still took a long time. But the fact that they just kind of like threw it together with an AI, I'm like, it makes it less special. Like, yeah, it sounds good. I like listening to it, but it's not. I could probably play this myself if I gave it enough of a shot.
Where, for example, when it comes to like generating stuff, because something I am thankful about with OpenAI is that they give you a lot of credits to play with. So it's not like Night Cafe where I can generate 2 images and that's it. That's all I can generate for the day. And then I just gotta wait for it to turn around again. Because for some of these, it takes me a lot of time and a lot of attempts to get these generated. Because I'm sifting through my library right now. Let me find a good example for you.
Yeah, see, for me, it was like I use Bing AI, well, Copilot now, formerly Bing AI for my assets, and it's done a pretty good job so far. Like some of the stuff, like Bugs Bunny or the you didn't see it because I didn't have the video up for that, but like the assets for the cultists, well, I should be honest, they are Klansmen. We're gonna kill Klansmen in the next episode of Appalachia.
There
It's
it
gonna
is.
be sick.
We're gonna play Black Skinhead by Kanye during the entire time.
Wait, what?
We're gonna play Black Skinhead while we're doing it.
No, we're gonna play I Fought the Law. It's gonna be great. The Bobby Fuller 5. It's gonna be sick. But yeah, like I took that from Wolfenstein and Oh Brother Where Art Thou because I thought it was really funny.
Don't let that fly hit the ground.
It's such a classic fucking movie. I love it so much.
Here.
And then they drop a cross on John Goodman.
He fucking died.
It's so good.
All right. I found the picture I'm looking for. Okay. So look at this. If anyone wants to know who this is, let's see, dropping it right here. This is a character that I have never really used or anything. It's just like sitting around. Now, Kyle, how does this look to you?
Not bad, actually.
Do you want to know how many attempts it took
like
to
the
make
fingers
this?
a little fucked up, but like AIs are not good at fingers. How many?
Yeah.
The gun also looks a little weird to me.
Yeah, a little weird. So yeah, it's not there, but it's like it's passable.
Yeah.
It is, right? All right. This took me 40 attempts, 40 generations.
Jesus.
Yes, to get to this level. Where, in comparison, some of these are a little bit better than others, because compare and contrast this to Michelle Shea, where the girl that I made for Orpheus. This one.
Yeah, like the hand's actually okay on that one. That doesn't look too bad.
But that still took about 6 tries before I can finally get it right.
Yeah, it takes a minute, and that's why it's iterative.
Yeah, because coming up with this, when you say like, oh, I found like generating anime is super easy because like anime is kind of banal by this point where all these shows begin to look and sound the fucking same.
Yes.
Where even though I love it, we need some art styles in here, guys. Come on, can we get another show that looks like Akira, please? But
I don't know. I was happy when Beastars used 3D animation because I thought that was actually kind of unique.
Or some like Kaji Ultimate Survivor where it's like super polygonal in design.
Well, the art direction of Kaiji was incredibly unique.
Yeah, like can we please get something that's not fucking schlock for once? But looking at this, where it's not a perfect tool, but at the same time, I was saying like with commission stuff, where say I had like the 40 commissions I was doing with the elf guy with the gun, or the multiple commissions I was doing with Mache, how much more money would that be out of my pocket if I like kept having to pay an artist if I didn't like the pose?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Where I'd rather do the 13 monthly than the 60 per picture. Is what I would do. And yeah, I know that also like puts a strain on artists that are trying to do it on their own, but at the same time, I always saw AI art as what's going to separate the boys from men when it comes to art world.
Yep.
Where if you have a style that is easily replicable, where you looked at Christopher Hart's big book of Kids Draw Everything manga, and you said that this is what you're going to do for a living, you're fucked. You're not going to have a business for much longer. But if you got a style that nobody can really replicate, we've got fucking Victor lurking around the Discord tonight.
Oh yeah.
Where for
do.
him, for example, where he's got a very defined style where I haven't seen anybody draw the same way that he does. He's gonna be fine.
Oh yeah.
He's not going to lose that position anytime soon. And same thing with Ezevin, where the way that Ezevin draws that level of black and white and that pencil control that he's got, where it's all digital and it comes across looking that sleek, that smooth, that clean, he's going to be fine too. Where if you actually have talent, you're going to be fine. If you're just a schlock artist, go ahead, put in the McDonald's application by this point. Give up, dude. You're never going to make it anyway.
Yep. Or just draw a barn. Easy.
That's what I can be. See, at the same time, you can just get an AI to do that too. You got NSFW generators.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
Yeah. You also can have, what was that copy pasta of like the guy that was like asking the artist to like draw a bunch of black women tying him down while he was in like explorer gear.
I don't know what that is,
Yeah,
and I don't think I want to know what that is.
I know if I type this into Google, it's going to show me stuff that I'm not looking for. But you can't ask a man to draw that for you. You can't do that.
No.
There's some paraphilias that you just gotta take to the grave with you, dude.
Without a doubt, yes.
You just gotta say, you know what? We're just gonna let the synapse wither in my brain. We're not going to interact with it.
Yep.
There it is.
It's like that one 4chan post that was like, before the internet, have an idea about fucking a fire hydrant. You don't fuck fire hydrants. You live a normal life. Nowadays, think about fucking a fire hydrant. Giant online community full of thousands of people that want to fuck a fire hydrant. Life is irreversibly fucked forever.
Yeah, we don't have back then we didn't have pictures like the vor trombone on Furro Fendi that's like voring somebody in a trombone.
That's disgusting.
There it is. You don't ever go on a site and look up the ketchup tag. You don't ever want to do that.
No.
All right, so that I think that's enough about Iteration X's ideas. Let's go ahead and to talk about the groups.
Yes, so there is quite a bit to go over with the different groups of iteration. Well, yeah, with the groups of different Iteration X, I don't remember what they are called. Actually, I think I took a note of that. Hang on. Give me one sec to get my notes up in order. They are... I don't know. Their contacts, I forget. It was in like a different part of it. Either way, but there's methodologies. That's it. So
yes.
There are three main ones that compose the Technocrat or the Iteration X. The first and most prominent of which are known as the statisticians. So these technocrats want to understand and control reality, as most do. They plan, they organize, they predict. Those are their three main MOs. They spend endless hours calculating on all the innumerable topics of the world. They try to find every variable, every static, everything that they can use in order to try and plan for the future. They are the ones who predict the enemy movements on both the tactical and strategical levels, and they do so in order to eventually chart a probable date of ascension. They are of the Iteration X, the oldest methodology. They first appeared when the Greeks and the Chinese artificers developed theories and goals in order to sort of plan for the future, and were even credited with designing the Julian and Gregorian calendars in order to help, facilitate their long-term definitions. And because of their focus on planning and calculating, they have thus become the de facto leaders of Iteration X. They plan out long-term goals and short-term strategies, keep a vast network of contacts in order to make sure that everything runs smoothly. And then you have the time motion managers. Their job is to design and oversee the construction of all of the different machines in the technocracy. It is rumored that the time motion managers began when the first mechanical clocks were developed by Benedictine monks around about the 1200s AD. And it was because of their advanced understanding of time magic that first developed the methodology known as the time motion managers. Their presence, of course, strengthened in the 15th and 16th centuries during the boom of the Industrial Revolution, where they would go on to produce machines, firearms, civil and military engineering, and any way to employ available energy as economically as possible, from water to steam power to coal power, so on and so forth. And they were the first ones to begin utilizing the factory system used by Richard Arkwright, which I don't know if the book mentions or not, and a lot of other ones.
It throws out a lot of names, and then they don't ever bring these guys up ever again.
Exactly. And then the machine tool industry sprung up around about the 20th century, where they found that they could use machines to make other machines. The time motion managers then began to control the masses through mechanics and electricians and make everybody dependent on technicians. They wanted to make people afraid of having to do things themselves and wanted to create a sort of DIFM, or do it for me culture. And For the technocracy themselves, they develop new polymers, high-tech ceramics, usually used for level 4 plates, bulletproof armoring, robotics, nanotech, and other sorts of hardware. The idea is to be able to save the Earth's resources with their own, high-tech, synthetic, materials so they can use them beyond the barrier. And then finally, you have the biomechanics methodology. They have been long developed in artificial limb replacement since, Herodotus in 500 BC, where Hegestiasus escaped from leg manacles by cutting off his own foot and made a wooden replacement. The Roman general Marcus Sigarius was given an iron hand after being maimed in battle. The book doesn't mention this, but I imagine Guts, the Iron Fist of Germany, likewise is of this ilk. This methodology was first developed by a progenitor turned artificer named Ambrosia Paré in the 16th century. The biomechanics job is to primarily develop spare parts for the other conventions, as well as weaponizing host rejection in order to prevent the widespread proliferation of accessible prosthetics. But aside from that, they also developed state-of-the-art biomechanics, and they helped develop the first hip mark in 1984. They develop a number of things like, skull plates, false eyes, glasses, contact lenses, hearing aids, false teeth, pacemakers, heart valves, vein tubes, breast implants, artificial bones, and joints. They will make just about goddamn anything. A lot of the shit that they make for things like the hip mark roll out of science fiction, basically. And, but you might be thinking, this sounds like Progenitors Light. And in a way, they kind of are. They are highly respected within the Iteration X, but do spend a lot of time associating with progenitors, even being invited to their conventions in order to find out how better to, improve upon their designs. They help the progenitors advise best on how to amputate limbs for easy prosthetics, though the progenitors are a little bit upset over what is known as the thalidomide disaster. They are a bit upset that the biomechanics took advantage of their prosthetic industry, and now the biomechanics and progenitors are sort of two competing sub-brands, so to speak, of the Technocratic Union. And those are the three main conventions, the methodologies of Iteration X. But then there's all the other factions. So, of course, you have the, fellow technocrats. They have a slightly altered and, as the book recounts, mistaken conception of ascension. As long as they all contribute, though, they really don't have a problem. A unified technocracy is the most efficient means of domination. Starting from the top, of course, you have the New World Order. So, by default, they are the administrative body of the Technocratic Union. Bureaucrats, spies, propagandists, psychologists, and hitmen. They monitor, they control the masses, they assist, although Iteration X is credited with creating the information highway, the digital web, what helps connect their vast swaths of information together, as well as the Committee of the Administration of Information, which provides all the statistical data for their statisticians in order to plan for the future, and the Committee of Logic itself, which designs conditioning programs for the masses. They also issue although the NWO have been issuing new memos that the loud and noisier attempts of the latter-day Iteration X might be reality deviancy, and Iteration X has handily ignored every single request of that. Of course, what's up?
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. Got you.
I didn't say
And then, as we discussed, the progenitors. Aside from the biomechanics, the rest of Iteration X has little in common with the progenitors, but they maintain a fairly close relationship. They provide machinery, progenitors provide biomechanics. Some of the biomechanics are invited to progenitor symposiums, and the creation of nanotech and life support and a biodigital virus to kill virtual adepts. That's what the progenitors do. Of course, then you have the Syndicate. They are responsible for the tight-fisted budgeting and bad marketing of Star Wars, and it completely fucking backfired, and likely also the fucking over of Ralph Bakshi's Wizards, which, undeniably rubs Johnny the wrong way.
Yes.
But as the Iteration X would put them, the Syndicate are just money-grubbing cowards. The IX can only enforce the progem that the Syndicate have put in place, but the Syndicate, because they are cowards and know the IX's worth, do not hesitate to provide a whole lot of funding. Though the they helped the Iteration X by popularizing sci-fi and cyberpunk and all the stuff we talked about early. Though recently, some personalities started to return as probably a response to the New Age movements of the 60s and 70s, leading all the way into the 90s. That's either a really good or a really bad thing, and more than likely both. This is where the book starts to get a little weird. So the narrator of the book himself starts to get cut off by the actual computer itself.
It starts slowly taking control.
Yeah, it does, which I think is kind of weird. It's like, if anybody's ever listened to the album OK Computer by Radiohead, in the end of Exit Song leading into Karma Police, there's, a part where an acoustic guitar and a ZX Spectrum synthesizer are sort of in like a bit of a duet battle between each other, in which the synthesizer eventually subdues and drowns out the guitar before leading into Karma Police. That's what I feel like is sort of happening in the book at this point in time.
Uh-huh.
So the Iteration X has the most in common with the Void Engineers. They're very futurist, though, they do not permit as the computer recounts, both are futurists and do not permit reality's time lag to stifle progress. Both use visions of high technology to prepare the masses for their rather outlandish and, cyberpunk, methodologies. Both are the Iteration X indirectly supply computers, machinery, and technicians to the more mundane space programs, and, usually commissioned to help build the Void engines. These engines are capable of supersonic flight, incredible maneuverability, and stealth capabilities, with the backside that they do have a light radioactive emission and light heat emission. Granted, the UFO sightings that usually occur over rural areas where these sorts of engines are tested help prepare the masses for what will eventually be. Though the Void Engineers donate low Earth orbit satellites for recon communication or remote controlling of Iteration X systems, they work cooperatively in this case. The Iteration X establishes temporary constructs, and the Void Engineers launch and search format missions past the barrier. The Void Engineers are bold, but they lack force to an extent. They're pretty neat.
These are also the same people that you're sending to their deaths because of threat null.
Yep. Like we
said,
said,
they say this in the other book too about how much they love the Void Engineers, and I was like, if we were like a married couple, we'd be the husband and the Void Engineers would be the bride because we get along so well. Like, you definitely don't have a knife in the back of the Void Engineers that you just keep stabbing and pulling out and stabbing again.
And then eventually the Void Engineers get sick of it and go, hey, by the way, you know what Iteration X did? Yeah, they kind of fucked you guys over.
The minute one of those astronauts survives and comes back to the NWO with that information.
Yep, and comes back with a live video feed, and they're all sitting there, and then they all slowly turn to look at, all of the IXs who are sitting there just picking their teeth, and they go, what? And then they immediately get their heads cut off.
It's like, it's not only did you know, but you knew for 25 years and you told nobody.
Yep.
To be fair, I feel like the Syndicate would also be in the same boat if they found out about Pentex and then basically funding a giant.
Oh, no, they know about Pentex. They know about Pentex.
The Syndicate know about Pentex, and they're like, this is a fucking drain on our resources. We're pulling funding in the next 10 years.
It was their idea to sell them stuff. It was the progenitors sell their stuff to Magadon, and Magadon makes it worse.
Yep, the progenitors are like, hey, we found out this beauty product. Here, let's imbue it with evil spirits to corrupt and decay humanity. That's a fucking terrible business model. Why would you do that?
As long as we get paid for doing it, it's fine.
No, I'm not saying the Syndicate finds out. I mean the technocracy as a whole.
No, they know.
No, they know. They 100% know.
They all know, yeah.
What?
Yeah, they all know. Every single member of the technocracy knows about Pentex.
They know all about it. They're like, okay. And they're, quite frankly, the Syndicate are getting sick of them. The New World Order is like, okay, it's still controlling the masses. And the IX are like, we have bigger fish to fry. And the Void Engineers are, we have much bigger fish to fry. So that's about where they're at with that.
Well, the progenitors are looking at this saying, our hands are tied. We know that they're harming humanity, but it's no damage that we can't sell them a better product to fix.
Basically.
That's what it is. Like
this is a temporary
in their
condition.
mind, it's like the villain of Wakfu with the progenitors, where it doesn't matter what damage we cause because we can just heal it back up.
Yeah, not a great business model though.
There it is.
It
is.
Then you have the traditions. So each construct maintains exhaustive files on the location and notorious mages of each tradition. They use the information to estimate their threat levels and predict the actions of all of the different traditions. And starting at the top, of course, you have the Akashics. So they believe that personal power is all a mental thing. Though, even though both Iteration X and the Akashics sort of originated from ancient China, they've failed to read deeply enough into all the ancient texts, and they believe in peace, contemplation, and the contempt for materialism. And of course, this is very dangerous to any technocrat. Though with their powers, they believe that they can break steel or cloud minds. The legend moves on, I guess. Not a whole lot to say on the Akashics.
To me, there's this massive connection between the two. Because you have this whole battle between man and machine when it comes to the Akashic Brotherhood versus Iteration X. Because the Akashic Brotherhood is all about personal improvement. That through your reincarnations, through your death and being brought back into a new life, when we, the Akashic Brotherhood, find out who you reincarnated into, we come to you, we contact you, we help reawaken your mind, remind you who you were, and you begin that path to enlightenment and nirvana all over again. We're helping you become the best possible you with the soul you have come into existence. While Iteration X says that there is no such self to rely to, we can just use all these records that we've saved already to just make a chip and just plant that in your brain, and all of a sudden you're Mr. Perfect. Where they deny the personal improvement that the Akashic Brotherhood preaches.
Basically.
Where, to me,
we will sell you the cure for all your ailments.
These two could not be at each other's throats more. Because the Iteration X denies everything that the Akashic Brotherhood believes in. Like, down to the point of death and resurrection and reincarnation to another body. Because Iteration X wants to upload your brain to a server where we can just pull your brain out of the server and put in however many bodies we want. That the soul itself can become a commodity to be bought and sold.
There's another tradition that takes great issue with that, but we'll get into that later.
Is that the social chorus? Or
no.
Yeah.
Listen to me.
That
Death is a necessary part of life, especially if you waste it.
Yeah.
Isn't there a movie coming out where the concept is that people sign up to be disposable, and basically they get their consciousness uploaded into like backups, and then they just keep getting printed out,
Well,
like
we have
instantly line whenever they die?
We have a video game for that already in Cruelty Squad.
Yes, we do, actually.
Yeah.
And it's a hard game to play, both straining on the eyes and just challenge-wise. But
it's sheer fucking difficulty.
If you can stomach playing it, I highly recommend playing it. If only for the questions that it asks, because it does ask very good questions.
It's a smart game that looks like a stupid game.
Yes. Civ 11 actually did say something similar, where it's a very cleverly designed game disguised as a shitpost.
No.
Meanwhile, we have the Celestial Chorus, and Johnny, you actually were talking about this earlier, and where it says God is dead. No, it is not. No, he is not. Because if you try to replace God with anything else, it's going to kill yourself. That's what's going to happen. You are going to destroy yourself if you let anything other than God be God.
You're going to come in, you're going to take a construct that you made, and if you go along with that Puritan belief that humanity is born in sin, and from sin you will return unless you transcend. If you look at humanity and say, oh, we're only human, we're all flawed by design. If you make something that you made, or another man made, the center of your life, it's only ever going to end in failure.
Anything made by mankind is just as flawed as the men who made it. We were made in God's image, but that does not mean we are God.
That's why, me and Kyle at the very least, We
I'm a
subscribe to that
god.
transcendent belief. What?
What's up?
Kyle, you said, but hold on, a minute, Ryan, you said something?
I'm a god.
Well, there we are. Become as gods.
Baruch
Well, Ryan, we
Adonai.
just need you to do
Baruch
what Set
Hashem.
does. We need. See, there's this guy out there called Set who's going to teach you how to become your own god and your own man, and that you'll become as god if you just defeat the demiurge for him.
Yeah, no, I killed Set ages ago.
There it is.
Well, we killed Malkov. I think, and Set never was going to come back because that was Bacchus's mind trick.
Is this to reveal that there is no Grim? It's always been Ravnos Antediluvian.
Yes.
That's what it's going to be. I'm going to make a very oblique reference to that, like sometime in Miami. And it's going to be really, really funny.
That like just Ravnos has been chilling with us the entire time.
Yeah, that would be hysterical. And like, we need some schizo post theory about
for
that.
a change.
Anyway, the Iteration X find the Celestials as a group of weak fools. They had their chance during the reign of the Catholic Church and failed. A lot of them have lost faith and fallen from grace, though they're surprisingly similar to Iteration X. They're highly structured and militaristic. They find themselves as the protectors of humanity, but they do not have a place in reality. However, because of their falling from grace, they actually are actually fairly easy to corrupt. Johnny, for this, would you like to play as the Man in Black or Mr. Williams, Jay Williams?
See, there might be. Oh, hold on, let me get my script pulled up.
Here, do you need me to send it to you?
No, I got to handle this.
Page 35.
See, you be the first guy.
Once again, name your superior.
Give me a minute. Sorry.
What are you, bro? I thought you were doing.
I'm still flipping through it. So I take two. Let's do it again.
Okay. Once again, name your superior.
I see clearly now. The one true force binding reality is the unity of the technocracy. We must reconcile all our differences and.
Yes, we've been over that before. Now, who do you go to for orders?
Or orders issued from the machine god. The soul of technocracy ensures that our material world spins smoothly along its winding course.
Somebody get the sodium pentathanol, and thumb screws. These guys are evil bastards.
Oh, you know it's bad when they're making the NWO look good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I still hate the NWO. The Syndicate are still the least dickish of all of them. Okay, so, the ecstatics. So
the cult of XTC.
I do like the fact that they use George Orwell in this. The sexual act successfully performed was rebellion. Desire was thought crime. I like that. So eliminate them. They're in. Oh wait, no, that's Dream Speakers. Never mind.
Kill them all.
Study them closely because it provides a perfect example of the dangers of excess. They stand for free action and self-expression, and in doing so accomplish absolutely nothing. They create more time in which to do nothing, but unless provoked, do not waste your time. They'll destroy themselves with drugs eventually. They can all be turned to the same baddie channel, but all of this, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, it's not cool. And the recent nostalgia for the 60s and 70s is just disgusting. How many people are actually under their influence? Though, destroying anyone who disagrees with you is equally excessive. So, it is what it is.
But these, the very least, Cult of Ecstasy created unity amongst its members. Iteration X has never done that.
It is not, no.
Yeah, Iteration
They
X,
had
the
to
people there like
program
each other.
unity, and even then, that's very, very fallible because it's technologically based.
It's what you do. Oh my gosh.
Now the Dream Speakers. These are the ones you want to eliminate because they're all fucking insane. They have powers that control dreams that cause hallucinations. They hold progress in civilization as blights upon the earth, which is very dangerous to the technocracy, and they just kind of often live alone in the worlds. Live alone in the woods, which they call the Gaia Sphere.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do. Not a whole lot on these guys.
they refer to them as their oldest enemy at the start of the book, where they say that the Dream Speakers, this is actually true. If you look at the group of mages that formed first, it was the shamans, it was the Dream Speakers. But then tool usage directly followed that.
Yes.
So Dream Speakers came first, Iteration X came second. The two of them have been in each other's throats this entire time.
That's like over 10,000 years of human history.
Where the Dream Speakers don't want to fight. Iteration X wants to fight. Iteration X wants to kill them all.
Yeah, basically.
So, yeah, there's a very clear aggressor in this. There's a very clear bad guy among these two.
It's the one that got the worm in its ear.
Yes. One that had direct origins from the worm from day one.
All right. I know you're sick of hearing about me, but guess what? I'm back because I want to talk about myself. I mean, who doesn't? I'm a bit of a big deal, you know what I'm saying? So, the Euthanatos are students of randomness and destruction, which make them deadly assassins. The Iteration X seems to think that they are agents of Nefandi. No, we're fucking not. Fucking idiot. Entropic magic amongst the technocracy and amongst other schools of magic is greatly feared. The Euthanatos often associate with cannibalistic undead, vampires, zombies, and ghouls. There has been at least one Euthanatoi saboteur has infiltrated the construct, but not without being captured. And it's written backwards, but I've rewritten it, and it translates as follows. Your threats are useless. If you let me live, my mere presence will disrupt your well-oriented construct. If you kill me, you will uphold the Reincarnation Manifesto. I'll eventually return, more powerful than before. In the meantime, the Resurrection Men will contact my spirit and learn all your secrets. You can't hold back the tide of oblivion. You too will eventually experience death. Not a good death, but death nonetheless. And when you do, I'll be waiting for you on the other side. And then he is subsequently tortured into compliance.
Forgot. For some reason, his text is flipped.
It is, and I think that is part of the entropy, but I could be wrong.
This is your brand on entropy. This is your brand on galaxy gas.
I'm here for it.
Sign me up.
I'll let it out of my mind.
Double Euthanatos and fucking Nazi Germany killing Nazis. It's gonna be sick.
Let's do. I know you hate these guys, Kyle, but they're starting to grow on me, the hollow ones.
Well, that's because they don't fucking do anything.
It's kind of like they're just chill guys that want to die.
You're not chill guys. You're suicidal. Get some fucking help.
No, they don't want to die. They just want to exist with nobody ever bothering them.
Cringe. Well, actually,
Yes.
no, wait, never mind.
And then just disappear one day, and then nobody cries for them.
Well, no, I don't want to fucking disappear one day. I want to actually, have a legacy and shit. They don't seem worried about that.
Keep your head down.
Hollow Ones. So the Hollow Ones are a crisis brought on by the traditions tampering with reality. The spontaneous awakening of many is too unpredictable for them to continue on with it. Though, and the Hollow Ones' weird brand of intuitive and inspirational magic is the antithesis of the technocracy. The progenitors are working to extinguish the avatars as sleepers, but the Hollow Ones themselves seem to carry on in a defeatist, decadent, and undisciplined manner. They are little use in the Ascension War, and they actively solicit more moderate orphans that are, able to indoctrinate. Not a whole lot on these guys.
Just leave them alone. Just leave these people alone.
No, you were born too special for that. So
you gotta go after the Hollow Ones for their whole shtick is how they want to be left alone.
So was the Gangrel, but you had no reservations about talking about how they're full of shit. So you get which foot is the shoe on, Johnny? Are the people who want to be left alone allowed to be left alone or not?
They can't be left alone. Just don't ever interact with the Hollow Ones. It's what they want.
And so do the fucking Gangrel. Yet it doesn't stop everybody else from saying, "Hey, Gangrel, go deal with a werewolf," or "Hey, Gangrel, help us deal these drugs." Hey, Gangrel, we need information. Shut the fuck up. Let me live alone in the woods with my family.
They don't contribute to anything.
Neither do the Hollow Ones.
The Gangrels make great pets.
No, we do not. First of all,
you just made Edin smile. Thank you, Ryan.
yes, you did. Okay, the Hermetics. So the Hermetics dominated reality in the Dark Ages for a very, very long time. And they were dedicated, and the technocracy, specifically Iteration X, since then, has been dedicated to preventing such a reoccurrence. From this end, the Hermetics tend to keep a low profile nowadays. The Order has provoked the Sons of Ether into defecting, towards the... Actually, hang on. Yeah. The Order provoked the Sons of Ether into defecting, and their study of forces gives them a much higher threat rating. Like Iteration X, the Order is a very structured mathematical and categorizational organization with very well-defined goals. Both them and Iteration X have some roots in Greek philosophy and medieval science, though Iteration X has moved beyond alchemy and astronomy. The Hermetic Order has not. So the Hermetic Order still has some more fantastical ideas, but they are more focused in their approach to it. And then, of course, you have the Sons of Ether. There is a lot of technological read on this one here.
Because they hate the Sons of Ether.
They despise the Sons of Ether.
It's because these two used to be super close to each other, because we left it out of this episode, but we'll talk about it more in the Sons of Ether episode proper, because majority of their history is when they were part of the Order of Reason. These two used to be attached to the hip, where they were on the same page for everything until Ether entered the conversation. And for Iteration X, they were looking at this Etherites and said, you lost your way. You became obsessed with this stupid fucking idea that was never real, and you just want to drop the subject. Well, the Etherites insist that this is how we will all ascend and become as gods. But then Iteration X denies the godhood part and says that no, all you'll ever be is just a machine. And then that whole transhuman argument broke the two apart.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
So, in 1283, early artificers made a miscalculation, and a scroll fell into the hands of a Spanish scribe, which opened the awareness to a subject-oriented view of reality, which was magic. It became a sort of secret society, some of which call them the pupils of Parmenides.
Yes.
The artificers kept an eye on these pupils, hoping their society would collapse, but, they... In the guise of helpful mentors, they provided a steady supply of obscure and outmoded theories. They would sabotage their experiments, but then it backfired. The more they failed, the more they wanted to try again and again and again. They encouraged pupils to link with the Celestial Chorus. The Celestial Chorus welcomed them, and the Aristotelian philosophy that they carried with them helped reinforce Christian theology against science. The integration was beneficial and infused with the 14th century, but the technocracy began to infuse the 14th century with criticisms and doubt, the defining line between real science and pseudoscience. And then once Copernicus proved Aristotle's concept of the universe incorrect, it all started to unravel. The Sons of Ether untangled themselves with the Celestial Chorus, and the technocracy had to invite them in, so to speak. They were permitted to pursue their illogical schemes, but they were rather abused by the technocracy. The shattered spontaneous generation and the Great Symposium of 1900 forced their departure. That old wound has yet to heal. Old artificer magic inspired the tradition to begin with. Though where they begin to diverge is that the Sons of Ether are more creative in science. But nowadays, Iteration X just finds them as simple morons. They corrupt a lot of more useful scientists and mechanics, and for this reason, they are very high on the IX shit list. Though their study of forces in life are very effective against biomedical foes, which makes them a prime threat for the IX.
So, it always makes you want to support the Sons of Ether just to spite these guys.
I would be a great Ben Franklin.
Because, just fuck them in particular.
I'm gonna make a lightning rod. It's gonna be sick. Check this shit out.
All right. See, we're holding off the episode for these guys for a while. No, hold on. The virtual apps aren't next. It's the verbena.
It is the verbena.
My least favorite tradition. Let's go ahead and get this done.
Let's spew pure blood on a chicken and hope it makes some magic. The descendants of pagans and witches, they are the worst traits of the dream speakers, euthanatos, and ecstatics all rolled into one feminist package. They are very nature-oriented, which, tends to go antithetical to urban society. And they do not often enter conflict with Iteration X over nodes, though they do stand for liberty, equality, and ecological responsibility, which again runs antithetical to urban society and thusly the Technocratic Union. Some say that they are rumored to have invented things like car sickness and air sickness. They encourage deurbanization, detoxification of the self by going out into the wilderness and spending time in nature, or taking holidays in secluded cabins in order to refresh and rejuvenate the mind, which is dangerous for the masses and, harmful to the mission of Iteration X and by extension, the Technocratic Union. Though the progenitors have been able to sort of combat this by cursing their verbena with allergies to pollen. Though the verbena mostly work... Yeah, no, I thought that was really fucking funny when I read that. We are warned that their magic relies on human sacrifice and the consumption of blood, and they can embrace carnal promotions. So they will attempt to seduce the biological half, so seek the machine should it ever occur.
There we go.
And now,
So
this passage I'm about to read here has me supremely convinced that John Carmack has to be a virtual addict, because only he would write something like this. So, just to sort of, on the IX side of this, the virtual adepts and Iteration X actually have a lot in common. They're both in the cutting edge of science. They've mastered computers, though the virtual adepts tend to use newer forms of computing, neural networks, trinary computers, fuzzy logic, object-oriented programming, things like Java, C++, Python, anything that can help put programming into the hands of the people, things that I know how to do even.
yes.
And, Iteration X tends to use mainframe computers, assembly code, which is... it runs universally, but it's also like trying to, carve, the words of the Odyssey onto the stone tablets using a squealing pig as a desk. It's basically, if Iteration X was using cartridges, the virtual adepts were the first to use DVDs in a console. That's the difference between them. The major issue is that the virtual adepts are very civilized opponents and know how to avoid or use their technological prowess in order to avoid falling into paradox. What's really funny is how the record was actually hacked by a virtual adept who goes by the screen name Ramses, that is Random Access Memory SES. So, and I have to read this directly from the book because it is hysterical to read. Give me one sec. There we are. Virtual adepts, once called difference engineers, were a methodology of void seekers which split off to take advantage of the new niche computer technology. Before defecting in 1954, they worked closely with Iteration X in developing biomechanical hardware and artificial intelligence. Their treachery meant almost as much to Iteration X as it did to the Void Engineers. They know the layout of our sectors, they understand how our AIs think, they may even have backdoors into our computer systems. The major advantage of virtual adepts is that they are civilized opponents. Conveniently, we can eliminate them within the digital web without concern for witnesses from either the masses or paradox. Not all the glitch over,
what?
Xer. I'm taking control of your CPU. Kaibo, it's dense in here. Since you're so busy sucking data about the VAs, let me reiterate what you know. We are the traders, and we're marked for deletion, online or offline. Your cyber psychos fry those of us that can catch. Read? Not many. You're clumsy and predictable, and your VR gear is about as cutting edge as a sledgehammer. We created the comp tech that runs your cybernetics. We know your access codes. Now I am the master, as it were. But what you lack in finesse, you make up for in firepower and brutality. I've seen some of your nasty digital deaths in my time, usually hurried along by MIS marks. Now I'm here in your R&D departments working on some biodigital viruses and other mind-bending shit straight out of Auschwitz. Caw, bang, fuck, I'm dead, hope you crash. Before dumping, I'll leave you with a thought. Computers were made by the people for the people, with a little help from us. This tech is to free sleepers, not to bind them in strings of random data. Hugs and kisses, sad face, Ramses Virtual Master. P.S. What's with your archaic computer font? Thanks, Ramses, I think. A nice handle. I guess the guy is something about pyramids.
Well, why don't you use a more fun font like Papyrus?
Or Comic Sans.
Onomatopoeia.
Yes. Fucking Windings.
It's
Anyway.
it is. Imagine writing your resume in Wingdings.
That would be such a flex.
Whoa. Why are you calling me out like that?
That would be a flex, though. They'll hand in a resume of Wingdings. Okay. That's creepy as shit. But there's other things out there. Like the Nefandi. Listen,
a
there's a
little
hell
picture on there
of a good universe next door. Let's go. Oh, there's a hell of a good universe next door. Let's go. The Nefandi represent everything Iteration X supposes. Randomness, death, and chaos. They have been exiled from reality. They are a serious threat to the Technocratic Union. They hang out with shapeshifters, bloodsuckers, and other illogical beings. They are the outlaws of Mage society. They are the second law of thermodynamics made manifest. They are to be isolated and removed. The end.
where I think we at least get on board with that idea.
Yes.
Because, you know, that's the Satanist.
Yes.
Ultimately. These
Yeah, just
guys
kill
are
it.
fucking worshiping the worm.
They work with the BSDs. That's too bad. Gotta eliminate them.
And then they screw over the BSDs once the job is done.
It's their way.
It's a
I
great
am
fucking
actually
people, am I right?
curious. Let's see. Oh yeah, the entropy disorder increases in a closed system over time. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, Marauders. When a Captain Marauder was scanned into a digital imaging chamber for reduction into a sample algorithm, the entire system crashed. They're unintelligible and unpredictable. They are extremely dangerous. That's it.
We're going running through a basic lie detector test. You just need to answer simple yes answers, and it will tell us if you're lying or not. Do you understand? Yes. Entire machine explodes.
Basically, yes. I love that. It's such a flex.
You can't fight a marauder. These guys have birthday cakes that shoot lasers at you.
We did actually kill one in New York, though.
And you got lucky because you had another wizard helping you.
I mean, yeah, we did. Thank you, Grim, for your wife. Anyhow.
My wife.
My wife. So, there's all kinds of other shit out there, like vampires, for example. They're mostly of little concern. They're vulnerable to matter, susceptible to forces. They have a lot of uncatalogued powers we don't really know about. And some vampires, the Tremere, deal with the Hermetics on a fairly regular basis. You know, for things such as, you know, fire, lightning, and kinetic energy. According to the narrator, there are dozens of vampires in Detroit. They are extremely loyal. They have brutal rituals and a deathly Darwinist mentality. They hold the masses in utter contempt and might actually be good recruiting material if they give it a shot.
Possibly.
And then you have werewolves. Not sure I believe in werewolves, but premium bullets probably work on them. You know, more believable than, you know, maybe it's Sasquatch, the missing link between ape and man. You know, that'd be magic.
I love how in second edition it says werewolves are real. Anyone that wants to face them is probably suicidal. Regardless if they're equipped or disposable, they're still probably suicidal.
Meanwhile, one thing I would like to point out about these binary code agents, they aren't properly written in ASCII.
No.
They are not. They are 10 digits long. In order to make an ASCII value, you need at least 16.
Yep.
There it is. Who feels silly now?
I am incensed by that. I was hoping for like a letter ASCII. Like just like one or two letters that represents like a initial to a false name in the database as a primary key. That would have been awesome. But no, they didn't do that. That makes me very, very upset. Final transmission of Cybertooth 011. Ambushed by 3 hostiles. One is a large timber wolf, 1.9 meters at shoulder. Targets furred humanoids, 3.1 meter tall armed obsidian blades, and automatic Receive new digital enhancements for upcoming symposium. Biomechanic reports it imprisons a dream speaker's avatar. Through it, we have learned of cosmology, of which includes entities called Children of Gaia, or Theurge in their own language. Detailed report to follow after return from San Francisco. We'll also request reprogramming to erase deviant thoughts. Analysis by unknown ASCII character 2. These entities have been identified as werewolves. It is being calculated that their power extends only to nature. They avoid cities. It is 83.1% probable that werewolves cannot transform in urban environments.
I'm just going to say this. You should definitely cross over Iteration X with the Glasswalkers, even if it is a one-sided arrangement.
They would fucking take over the Glasswalkers and see about destroying them as a tribe. That would be game over if they got their foot in the door.
It would be, yes.
Nah, I think they would, at least in Revised Edition, they'd probably use the Glasswalkers purely for the Spirit Sphere and Spirit stuff.
Well, like throw them at Threat Null?
No, I mean like have them help them along with all their Spirit stuff.
There is no help with the Iteration X. You work for the Iteration X.
Yeah,
yes, that's what I mean. They're the hired help, but the hired is in quotations.
The help is in the movie The Help.
Yes, basically.
And they told them to eat my shit.
But yeah, basically, you cross over with Iteration X, suddenly you have the techno fetishes from Book of the Weaver.
And then a complete fucking collapse. You gotta call in every tribe to handle that.
Yeah,
yep, because suddenly all their cybernetics and techno gadgets no longer invoke paradox.
Well, not just that. They all, they all become self-aware, take over the minds of the Glasswalkers. Then every other Garrow has to kill them.
It's the fucking Weaver Ascending Part 2.
Basically, yes.
Then you get stuff like
an apocalypse scenario. Is what you get.
Yeah, werewolf hit marks. Basically, imagine what a Terminator is to a human. Now they have hit marks that are that to a Garu.
That's terrifying to think about.
It just has resist pain on all the time. You fill it with a clip of lead, it keeps coming after you. A clip of silver, it keeps coming after you.
It is quite
completely
literally
burn it to a crisp
Terminator.
until only the bones remain, and then it just regenerates from there.
Yeah.
So you have to kill it with like a silver hydraulic press.
Basically, or throw it in magma like it did in the movie.
No, it'll have to be thrown in molten silver.
That'd be hard to come by. Fairies.
Not
what
real.
does the computer know about fairies? There is no such thing as fairies. But a premium bullet would probably work as well as iron blades.
So I wonder if these are the guys that wrote them out consensus.
Probably. And then ghosts. Access denied. Remain at current location. Assistance is forthcoming. Oh, gamer, you're dead. Bro, you are so fucked. Like, quite literally. Well, that about ends my rambling confession. It's taken me an entire 11 minutes, 9 seconds to print this hard copy. Longer than I calculated. My 7 days appointment with a data dump is fast approaching. I can't imagine what Decilion and Tescon will do to me once they learn of my treachery. Perhaps my silhouette will decorate an alleyway like 11101 I never learned his real name. Or maybe they finished the lobotomy. One thing is for certain, the convention will deal with me. That's what Iteration X does best at.
Now, so that I realized that I forgot to mention, so I'm going to mention it now. How does Iteration X recruit, do you think?
They don't. They own.
Where you notice that with the NWO and the Syndicate, you had to have some sort of merit where you prove that you're responsible enough to use this technology, that you're actually going to be somebody that's worth their time. With the NWO, it was that whole test. It was like years and years of testing. With the Syndicate, you had to be a self-made man before joining the Syndicate. Iteration X, if you're desperate, you're allowed to be a part of it. They're looking for people that have got either severe deformities, disabilities, or diseases that they will die from or live a terrible life from. We're looking for people that have got FOP, like I forget what it's called, but it's the thing where every time you get wounded, your body just fills the space with bone, and eventually you have to decide whether or not you're going to be in a standing or sitting position for the rest of your life as your body forms its own cage.
Here's something that Edin would like.
Yeah.
Say perhaps a withering bane got, somebody with a withering bane with a terminal illness got inducted into Iteration X, and they attempted to cure him. The withering bane stayed with him even after the disease itself was cured and corrupted the rest of Iteration X through that way.
And you return to your wormish origin from which you came. From sin you are born, and from sin you will die.
Yes.
Thank you.
And with because with Iteration X, once again, you just can't quit your job if you got cybernetic implants. So looking for people that won't say no to me shoving an entire male skeleton in your body, that won't say no to me pulling out your heart that was already going to fail and replacing it with this synthetic organ that I have full control over, that won't say no to me replacing your petrifying brain and filling it with chips that will control your thoughts. They want you to say yes.
Johnny, I think you're overcomplicating this. All you have to do is find someone that wants cybernetics and tell them in order to properly use cybernetics, you have to get this brain chip as a brain interface for the cybernetics, and inside of that, you just have your control chips and stuff inside.
That's what it is. All these members of Iteration X that died during the job, you can just scoop up the body and fix it, and then throw them right back out in the field.
Yep. Take away those control chips and sign me up.
It is just that easy. Like Iteration X, they're not losing members; they're just recycling and reusing the members that died in combat before.
So what you need
I would
is
love a new set of lungs.
Yeah. What you need is the gun from Cruelty Squad that re-siphons your DNA so you can't be rebuilt.
That's what you need. They're just going to keep throwing you out to the battlefield until you are just a puddle of mush on the ground that just can't be recompiled anymore.
Ryan's new lungs aren't going to be lungs. They're going to be like air filters that just filter out the oxygen of the air and absorb it. And there's going to be like a fan in his throat that's just going to continuously push air. Then he's going to have like some gill-like openings on the bottom of his back. That's where all the air goes out.
It's better than having fucking asthma.
That's true. He's going to be a fish. We're going to go to the beach. He's going to have gills.
I'm okay with that.
We'll have recycled the air. And looking at what else Iteration X has in terms of recruitment. So, yeah, they're going to find like poor, unfortunate souls that won't say no to a devil deal, and then you're just locked into that devil deal because you can't quit a job that owns your body.
My headcanon says all the cyber dogs that Glasswalkers didn't kill in 3.5e got, in quotations, taken in, close quotations, by Iteration X.
Unlikely.
And they will be used to build the Hitmark 7.
Which is a Garrow base with cybernetics and nanites.
It never ends. You'll never escape this torment. Alright, so shall we go into spells and the Hitmarks themselves? Ryan, I gave you the pages.
Yes, you did. I've got a whole bunch of devices.
Devices. Let's talk about how this magic's supposed to be used. Now, remember that these spells were getting pretty boring by design with the NWO and with the Syndicate, where, I have the life and correspondence sphere, and my magic is calling an ambulance. And that's it.
Yep.
So here you actually get crazy stuff. Let's go into what spells we got. Now, you should be able to start thinking of ideas already because cybernetics, what we've been talking about this entire time. So Ryan, let's begin.
All right, we've got the micro tools, which is a ret 2.
Yeah, that's how many. That's how quote unquote enlightened you need to be in order to use this. And for every 1 point of a red, it's a D10 that you're rolling to cast a spell.
So it's a sensor helmet that's has linked glove. Each finger ends with a precision tool. So the way I picture it is kind of like one of those doctors goggles that zoom in and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then Edward Scissorhands fingers.
Yeah.
With various tools.
But do we have to turn your hand into a Swiss Army knife?
Exactly. You can use it to repair machines and mundane devices using Matter 1. The Mage adds device magic success to technology-based skill rolls.
Mm-hmm.
The user is also assumed to be a specialist with whatever machine they are working on.
Mm-hmm. So that you get a little extra dice to your roll too.
Oh yeah. No. Okay, I gotta mute this.
So it is. You notice that a lot of these have like little stat bonuses that you get.
Nice little
Where-
kicks to the bonus.
But
Yeah.
like very similar to how the Glassworker Fascists were just cybernetics.
Or high techno fetish
Yeah.
variations of existing ones.
Got
The
another line.
next one is the Penetrator.
The pinch. Oh
Or-
no! This the NSFW tag up.
Someone
The
played Saints Row.
Yeah.
Iteration MP0 Penetrator. It's an Artet or Aret 3, contestants of 15, and it costs 11. This device resembles a chrome machine pistol of unknown make. Some of its features include a caliber, which uses 10mm ammunition.
Mhm.
And it produces its own silver bullets if necessary.
Mm.
Another effect, Matter 1, enables the shooter to gauge the degree of protection afforded by any objects. So if you would know that a target is wearing Kevlar beneath the clothes,
It's very useful.
or if a car's windshield were bulletproof. The Penetrator has a difficulty 7. It does 2 damage. It has a range of 20, a rate of 3, and it's capable of 3-round burst, full auto fire, and sprays.
Mm-hmm.
It has a clip of 15, and you can use it to conceal J.
See, in your jacket. That's what that means.
J for jacket.
Yeah,
Like
J for
Full Metal.
J for JO.
JOI?
Yeah, yes. In fact, you can get one of those installed in your brain.
So you just have
We're
like
go-
a head gun?
Yeah,
I guess you could
no,
say
no,
it's a head cannon.
we're going to cure depression, Kyle. Just go pull up Afton Rose ASMR. Click on the 72 video long playlist.
I don't think I'm
keep an
going
eye
to
out
do
for-
that.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for Ryan's next video. It's ASMR Ryan.
Yeah.
Version 2.
Grim ASMR, but he's eating a steak.
True. Up next is going to be our stealth suit. It's I keep feeling I'm gonna butcher this. Aret.
Aret, yes.
Aret 4 and quintessence 20. It costs 17. I'm guessing it's pretty much what it is. Stealth suit.
Yeah, it's what it says on the tin. Behold, bombs away.
Yeah.
It's a stealth suit.
Yeah.
You've played Metal Gear Solid. You know what this looks like.
It's loose-fitting bodysuit worn with woven of black synthetic fiber. It's got a power pack, sensors, and electronical necessities. They are integrated into the belt by means of conjunctional forces 2 life 3 effect. The suit confers limited invisibility. Add the number of successes to any sneak or dodge pool. Sensors enable the lower to locate invisible allies. Left 1. And finally, the synthetic fibers in the suit have limited sentience and can repair small punctures and rips.
So good. It's able to keep you alive, so you don't die on the job.
Right?
It's you guys have played Fallout New Vegas?
Not to
Yes.
completion,
Yes.
but I know how it ends.
You remember the Stealth Suit Mark II and how it keeps blowing through your stim packs the minute you take just a little bit of damage?
Yeah.
No,
No.
because they had a mod that fixed that.
Yeah, you had the mod that actually made the suit useful. Edin, you ruined the joke.
I thought you were going to go on to how it talks to you and shit.
It talks to you while you're stealthing and throws you off your concentration. It talks over the enemy sneaking up on you. So it's this shoot but better in every way.
Oh, it sounds like fun.
All right, what's next on the list?
The next gear is the net gear.
Let's see
See what
the
I did there?
net.
The next
brand of router.
gear is a net gear.
Let's see what we got here.
I'm hilarious.
You fucker.
Iteration X is playing catch up with the adepts when it comes to the virtual technology. The Technocrats still use netgear, gloves, boots, belts, and a helmet, all wired together in order to enter the digital web, kind of like Digimon.
Yeah. It's exactly like Digimon, yes.
The first effect, Correspondence 2, allows entry via sensory visitation, as described on page 28 of the Digital World sourcebook. A second provides extracting perceptions of the virtual environment by using the integrated copy program. One can create multiple icons, Correspondence 4. Finally, the gear includes a directory subprocessor. This can locate any virtual landmark, such as the spy's demise, or track net runners with successful perception and investigation role.
Sounds pretty useful, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Is it?
Especially if you're dealing a lot with the digital web. Up next,
I love that. It just points out too that the virtual apps are just kicking the ass of Iteration X right now. Because as we get into it, like if you like picture like what two groups are facing each other off the most, it's Iteration X and the virtual adepts. And the adepts are just running circles around Iteration X.
Yeah, I do find that very funny.
It's a catharsis factor because at least somebody's showing these guys who's boss.
You find that the syndicate's doing IX's job better than IX.
It really. Continue, Ryan.
oh right, going forward, it's going to be the exoskeleton, much like the zombie ones from all those Call of Duties. What was it? Advanced Warfare.
Yes.
It's an Arret 6 Quintessence 30, and it costs 22. Thanks to someone named William Smith, you should be familiar with this device. That explains nothing.
It's a name that just like drops fucking in there for no reason.
Yeah. When used, it replaces physical attributes with Strength 6, Dexterity 2, and Stamina 8. Oh, so yeah, that's cool. It just replaces all your physical stats. The suit also has its own health levels. Okay, times 6, -1, times 3. Destroyed, integrated into, destroyed. Integrated into the suit are a number of functions. A thermic lance, forces 3, prime 2, which inflicts 2 levels of health per damage, of 2 levels of health of damage per magic success. Insulation, forces 2, from mundane electricity and temperature extremes. Sensors, forces 1, which provide infrared scanning and radar. And a cyberjack, mind 1 matter link between man and machine. It is powered by quintessence, and upon activation, it drains 2 points, 1 for motion, 1 for sensors per scene. Similar, each function of lance or insulation drains 1 point.
So, you want to join Iteration X?
I don't want to be owned, so no, I'm going to join the virtual adepts instead.
You want to steal this stuff with the virtual adepts?
Yes.
Again, if they didn't include the brainwashing chips, yeah, sure, why not?
If you actually got to enjoy what you were using.
Yeah.
Oh, but
like
you don't. You have to fight the reality deviants and do exactly as I say, or else you're going to get brainwashed and lobotomized.
You do what I say when I say it. You will die when I say you will die.
New lungs would be great. A new brain, even better.
A lung that will catch all my cigarette smoke so I can smoke free with no consequences.
Exactly. I want to be chain smoking again.
I want a
just send all the
prosthetic
nicotine
liver
into
so
my
I can
blood
drink
like the Zen pouch.
fuckloads of beer.
There it is. It'll just like get like a switch that just makes you drunk by that point.
Yeah, but I like the taste of beer.
It is. You gotta do it for the taste, like a real vampire.
Exactly. I like different flavors. They're good.
Is there any more gadgets, or is that it?
That is it for the gadgets, but they had to also have biomechanisms. I don't know if you want me to.
Biomechanism. Is that a buzzword if I've ever heard it?
It's pretty much they replace something in your body with a cybernetic to make you better.
So what's it do?
There are many various different things that it does. So you can have one that is a digital enhancement implant or a DEI.
What?
DEI.
Oh, what?
A DEI.
That term didn't age all that well.
I don't know
It's
what it
a
means. Let's go ahead.
See,
digital
we got
enhancement
this
implant.
report from the NWO saying that we don't have enough black people in the Generation X.
It's an Arret 2 Quintessence 10, and it costs 6, and enhancement and inserts cost 1 per dot.
Mm.
All ciphers have a secondary computer brain surgically implanted within their skull to make room for parts of the frontal lobe and limbic system are removed. These regions merely deal with the emotional control, expression, and long-term plans and complex moral judgments. Circuitry and hardware line the inside of the brain pan. A DEI consists of a number of parts. The central processing unit controls all functions of the DEI and is responsible for converting between analog data, thought, and memory, and the digital format, which is a computer, what a computer can understand.
Mm-hmm.
A magnetic memory unit stores a great amount of data and that uses quotations of bubbles.
You can already tell it's outdated because it uses magnetic tape memory instead of solid state.
Right.
It is. We're so glad we got this computer science man with this.
Of magnetic polarity on special crystals. These bubbles continually circulate, so access time is slightly slower than conventional RAM or RAM. The primary advantages of the system are a fast memory and the ability to wipe clean and reprogram the iterator's memory as desired. Oh, I don't like that.
That's the spooky part right there.
Through this
memory rewriting.
Yeah, right. Through this memory, Iteration X has achieved something of a collective unconscious of all its mages having the same memory base. Most available memory is required for processing, but enough space remains for up to 3 dots worth of ability enhancements. These programs provide up to 3 dots of current technological limit and a specific ability. Generally restricted to knowledge except for cosmology and occult. A mage with hypersynaptic. Jesus Christ, I just didn't want to form the last part of that word. Hypersynaptic reaction systems can upload skills except for meditation. Difficulties when using such skills, but not knowledges, are +1 due to lack of personal experience and practice.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the right ear, an input-output jack allows data to transfer between the mage and an external computer. This jack is usually hidden from view by a syntheskin.
Something that they stole from Cyberpunk.
4 larger sockets in the back of the skull allows for data inserts. Each data insert provides the program for 1 skill or knowledge of up to 3 dots. These 2 are concealed. A successful magic roll allows for memory retrieval or a complex calculation, mind 1. This allows a mage to utilize the ability given by the insert. Rolls are also used to see if the mage can access ability enhancement when required.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty handy.
This is part of the brainwashing.
You want somebody to just like plug a virus right into your brain to that jack in the back of your head?
You just get Bonzi Buddy.
You just get to spend the rest of your life just listening to Bonzi Buddy.
You're very
Fucking drive you insane.
It's not just that; it would also steal all your information in your head.
It's nothing but being rickrolled. The next one is a sensor organ. These ones are pretty short, so I can get through these with like quick. That was probably the only longer one.
Let's see what you got.
The sensor organ is an RET2 quintessence 10, and it costs 6. This is a variety of bio mechanisms. One that replaces the eye with an infrared scope, focus 1, or a zoom lens to inspect flaws in material, matter 1. Another improves an intuitive radar, correspondence 1. It also possible to have a radio antenna installed, which is forces 1.
Mhm.
You got an electrical hand pulse, think kind of like Tony Stark's hand blasters. Boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
It stores charged particles, static electricity, which can be released upon command, force 2, prime 2. Each success causes 1 health level of damage.
Not a whole
Had a
lot.
soda upstairs.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, I
Snap me back to reality.
Oh, there goes
I-
gravity.
I apologize. Next thing is my favorite, the iron lung.
It is.
It's an RET3 quintessence 15, and it costs 10. This biomechanism replaces one of the host's lungs. It breaks down the body's waste product, carbon dioxide, into competent molecules. Carbon is expelled as a solid through an I can't read that.
No.
Aperture in the rib
Yes.
cage.
Yes.
Oxygen is.
I was going
Go
to say it's like akin to an eye.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oxygen is compressed and stored in a canister until required. When asphyxiated or in need of burst of energy, the mage can reintroduce oxygen into his bloodstream in a controlled dose. Life 2. I would fucking love that.
It'd be kind of neat.
How many times did you use this?
All the time. I would
Constantly.
use it all the time.
You see, this is what I mean about Iteration X, where a lot of this stuff would be very useful in the hands of humanity if you didn't like try to control me through it. If I was just allowed to get this, like, just sell all of your good ideas to the syndicate and close up shop.
Iteration X reminds me of that Vin Diesel movie, Bloodshot.
I don't
Oh,
remember that.
go cut on that one.
Cardiomuscular assemblage.
And what does
It's
this
an-
do?
RET4, quintessence 20, and it costs 14. This biomechanism replaces a person's heart and musculature with synthetic elastomers.
Yes.
For the most part, it operates as its organic namesake. However, it is also capable of concentrated bursts of energy. Magic successes can be divided up and added to the mage's physical traits. Such gains are only temporary, though. Maximum of 1 per day, as per duration. The
So
go ahead.
not as crazy, right?
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
The hypersynaptic reaction system is an RET4, quintessence 20, and it costs 14. This mechanism is actually an integrated system. The mage's DEI receives an upgrade providing accelerated processing speed and software which overrides their own wits with a action response algorithm. Microwires replace neurons, since the neurons operate 1,000,000 times more slowly than silicon.
Mm-hmm.
The body is reinforced to handle rapid movement. In effect, the mage operates as if under accelerated time. a rank 3 time effect. After each high speed burst, the mage tends to be tired, famished, and dizzy. I read that as lazy.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
Next up is kinetic legs. That pretty much speaks for itself. You get you can multiply your own kinetic energy, forces 4. Each magic success can be applied directly to the results for jumping or pursuit.
You get the super stilts from Wolfenstein.
Pretty much.
Kyle, you never used those, did you?
In which Wolfenstein?
The new Colossus.
No, I did not.
They just make you tall, and like the Nazis just look up at you like, say, like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? And you
I
just
had
shoot them at the headshot.
I use the ramshackles myself.
The fucking stilts. What's next? What's next on the list?
A pneumatic arm. It's an RET 5, quintessence 25. It costs 17. A successful magic roll activates the arm's potential. Duration depends on the degree of success. Using a pneumatic compressor unit, the cybernetics arm doubles for a pile driver. Forces 4. I didn't realize it did a wrestling move. In combat, strikes are difficulty 6 and do strength plus 3 damage. 3 successes on the 2-hit roll causes a body slam. See page 267 of a Mage.
Oh, and here comes Triple H. Oh, what a left.
The arm can it's the people's elbow. The arm can parry melee or brawling attacks, reducing an opponent's success. If the opponent's successes are reduced to below 0, the arm breaks the weapon or inflicts damage on the attacker.
I see.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You see, a broken arm doesn't quite mean the same thing in this context.
No.
Let's go ahead and we'll slap it back on. We'll just flex glue it back onto you. And see, shall we talk about the hit marks now?
Yes,
I think
my
it's
throat is dry.
Have you seen Terminator?
Yes.
Can we talk about the Saber-tooth tiger?
Gives a shit about the tiger. It's just a robot tiger that you brought back to life through machines.
It's
that's
a
it.
tiger that you made into a cyborg.
There it is. It's the thing. I know. Fucking Vic has posted it somewhere over here. You see the link, Kyle? Where is it? Looking at this.
I don't.
There it is. I'm adding you in the studio notes right now. There's the link up there.
Hang on.
It's
Saber-tooth tiger?
Yeah, well, this is the stuff that Iteration X is doing with your money.
I mean, it's kind of dope, not gonna lie.
You exhume the body of this dead tiger and you put a machine in it.
Yeah, that's metal
Wait
as
for them
fuck.
to do that with Garu.
There it is. It's what their whole plan is. Dr. Robotnik. Let's go ahead and let's roboticize everything.
Basically.
It's what their idea of mass ascension is supposed to be. But like, how is this ascension? How is this? How you getting anything out of this is just pure fucking evil. What you're doing.
Yep. They are evil.
My gosh, these guys suck.
Yep.
Let's getting into this. All right. Let's talk about the fucking hit marks. That's what everybody came here for.
Yes.
Not me. I came here for the lulls.
So, The Terminator was the movie that was just in the mind of Hind during this time. He was writing the book, and it became a staple because Terminator. Well, when did Terminator 2 come out? When did this come out? It came out in 1991. This book came out in 1993. Yep, it was on this guy's mind. And yeah, when this came out, old Schwarzenegger went from being a slasher villain to being an action hero in this movie. Well, he already was an action hero, but in Terminator context, at the very least. And it came out, and it was even better than the first movie, where it took you, how long of a gap was this? Around 7 years to make this. And you took all the time you needed. You got it right the first try. Everybody was referencing Terminator around this time, and so there you have it. We now have the Terminator in World of Darkness.
The the Liquid Terminator athletes actually had to intentionally slow down because he was actually catching up to the car in
Yeah, he
fights too
kept.
fast.
Yeah, they keep reshooting that scene.
Yep, because he was literally too fast.
It is. It's the whole thing was when you're driving a car in a movie, it has to go 45 miles an hour, and that's the fastest you can go for safety regulations.
Also, a lot of the Terminator movies were shot unlicensed, so they would illegally go around LA filming.
Nice.
It's LA. Who gives a shit about this pace? It ain't
And
what
they would
used
have
to
to
be.
run away before the cops arrived.
I mean, it was LA
Man.
in the 1990s. You get away with anything.
The government trying to get in the way of my movie. All right, so let's get into it. So, Ryan, what does the book say? Or did I even send you these pages at all?
The only thing I have is paradoxes.
Right. Oh, I didn't send you these pages, right? Well, actually, we
No.
do need to talk about paradox. Come to think of it, right? All right. So we'll put a pin to hit mark. We'll get back to you on it in a minute.
Hey, look at
Yeah.
that.
There it is. I'm fucking
Just
around
kidding.
too much. I'm fucking around too much.
So the paradox is a thing that happens when two things can't happen at the same time in the timeline. In the case of iteration X, it is through technomancers are the current masters of reality and take great pains to conceal their magic behind science and technology. They can do and gain a paradox. In fact, iteration X is the convention least concerned with being limited by static reality. Continually challenging believability, they are responsible for much of the world's quotations future stock. The iterators gain paradox in three ways: using magic, using devices, and using the mechanisms. The justice tradition. So we're going to start with using magics. It's a very short paragraph. The tradition mages, iterators who botch a magic effect roll, attract the forces of paradox. Strong applications of scientific theory. See the science knowledge in the Book of Shadows. Can sway the paradox balance of techno magic.
Very, very useful, very handy.
Our hit mark died in Russia.
It blew up with that base.
Using devices, many of Iteration X's devices appear to be mundane gadgets, micro tools, and the penetrator fall under this category.
Your big damn gun.
True. These usually attract as much paradox as would coincidental magic. Other devices such as the Cell Suit or Cyber Tank are clearly far out. Yet they still operate within a scientific framework. Apparently, the hydraulics, electronics, and computers and other staples of technology. And science has prepared the masses for their inevitable appearance. These latter devices can be either coincidental or vulgar, and thus attract varying amounts of paradox. Depending on how the masses perceive them, fooling a physicist or a mechanic would be more difficult than fooling the average Joe. The former realizes that no such technology is within current reach. Consider the device vulgar. I'm fucking up my words today, guys. I'm sorry.
It is vulgar.
It's vulgar, yeah. The latter might take this technology for granted or assume it is part of a top secret government project. Consider the device coincidental. Lacking witnesses always consider the device coincidental. The last way is to use mechanisms. The more advanced mechanisms are extremely vulgar, though their uses roll the device's full rating when using the effects. Attached to a mage, there are a constant source of paradox. For each rating of the newly attached biomechanism, Jesus Christ. That word does not want to work for me
It
today.
is fucking you up right now.
And it's ever since I started doing the biomechanisms.
It is.
There you go.
The newly attached biomechanism, the mage gains equal paradox. These points are permanent. Mark them in red ink. They cannot be removed except by losing the biomechanism.
Yeah, but you see, a paradox fucks you up in this game.
Oh yeah.
It fucks you up. You don't come back from it.
No.
All right.
They're permanent.
So there we go. I think I'm like coming to like a revelation. Like you remember when I say we were doing the syndicate, where I started off hating the syndicate, and then as I read more about the syndicate, I began to like it more and more.
Yes.
And that fully grew on me. I'm having to reverse with Iteration X.
You were super excited, and then you read it, and you were like, "Nah, this blows."
And I'm like, this is worse than how I remember it being.
Yeah.
It's part of like why I don't like reading the books of Mage Ascension to begin with, because of just how fucking wordy and like word salad they end up becoming.
There's a lot of shit to do in Mage.
And now we can get to what we've been waiting for. Let's go ahead. Let's get these fucking hit marks. Let's see, all right. So let's see here. How many models of hit mark exist?
I think 6.
There are 6 of them. They're working on a 7th as of the meta plot. Though we never got to it because no more books have been released from Mage so far. Mage 5th edition is not going to happen. No matter how many times you want to tell me it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. It's because what Onyx Path isn't even hasn't even started to prepare for running Mage 5e. So going into this, so you guys have seen the Terminator movie. You already have like an idea as to what these things can do.
Yes.
But they start off pretty almost identical to just the T800. But as it turns out, with the T800, you can easily hack it. And it kept losing T800s to the virtual adepts and Sons of Ether, who stole the robots and turned them against them. So they began to realize that we need to put some serious antivirus and anti-hacking and firewalls in this. So we end up having models that are now like the TX, where if you want... Did anyone here watch Terminator 3?
I did. Yes.
My favorites, actually.
Okay.
Even if they did intentionally dumb down the nuke scenes because they thought it would be too offensive to have realistic ones.
And with the TX, you know that this thing was liquid metal and skeleton at the same time, where it wasn't suffering from, say, oh, I just drop it in the valve fire and it burns and that's it. I can just wash my hands and go home. No, with the TX, it was smart because, you know, even if the liquid metal goes away, we still have a robot skeleton that can keep coming after you.
Yeah, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger shoved its own battery in its face when it was getting unstable.
He said, "You've been terminated."
The TX can also control and take over other machines.
Where, just imagine something in that Terminator movie that's scratching the surface of it. These things can basically do anything when you get to Mark 6.
Oh, yeah.
Where, if your storyteller is getting pretty sick of you, they'll drop a hit Mark 6 in front of you, and then that's the end of the game. You're not coming back from that. And you had some spooky looks to them too. Shall we start off with the stat blocks?
May as well.
All right. Should we even go over to Mark 1 by this point, because it's so outdated by design?
Yes, just as a reference.
I mean, yeah, just like, yeah.
All right. So let's go over it. All right. The Mark 1. Strength 2, Dexterity 2, Stamina 4, Perception 2, Intelligence 1, Wits 2, Charisma 1, Manipulation 1, Appearance 2, Brawl 2, Dodge 2, Melee 3, Drive 2, driving a horse and chariot. Now you might be wondering, why is that on there? Oh, it's because these things have been being built since 1523 BC. This is a Chinese wooden automaton that's coming after you. And it has only 6 levels of health and generates no paradox.
No, honesty, that might be creepier than an actual modern hit bar coming after you.
It's also like the Japanese ninja where they have like the Bunraku puppets that have shuriken and smoke bombs and guns inside of them. We won't get another one until 1356, the hit Mark 2. Strength 3, Dexterity 2, Stamina 4, Charisma 1, Manipulation 1, Appearance 2, Perception 1, Intelligence 1, Wits 1, Intimidation 1, Ride Horse 3, Firearms 3, Melee 3, Heraldry 2. Where it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 levels of health, and an armor rating of 5. It is a knight that has a clockwork gear automaton skeleton shoved inside of it. So behold your whole like Pinocchio, like your nutcracker kind of robot, I guess. The general enemies that you're fighting in Lies of P. Alright. Mark III. Created in 1837. We have the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. This is what these guys look like.
If only you had a
Strength
heart.
6, Dexterity 1, Stamina 5, Charisma 1, Manipulation 1, Charisma, they put Charisma here twice. Appearance 0, Perception 1, Intelligence 1, Wits 2, Brawl 1, Intimidation 5, Firearms 3, Mathematics 3. Once again with a big damn armor rating of 5. I don't really know what you get from this.
Dope shit. That's what happens.
It kind of looks worse mechanically than the Mark II. But all right, it's got a machine gun inside of it. I guess that's all you really need. Just shoot a man to death with your Tin Man and then run back.
If it works, it
All right.
works.
All right, now for the Mark IV. Now we're beginning to look like the Terminator. These are guys that look like the damn Terminator by this point. All right. Strength 5. Dexterity 5. You ready for the stamina score?
They on me.
All right. Stamina 5. But Charisma 1, Manipulation 1, Appearance 0, Perception 2, Intelligence 2, Wits 3, Alertness 2, Brawl 2, Intimidation 1, Research 2, Technology 2, Computer 2, Science 2. Why does it have these stats? Because it's a learning computer. It's now copying stuff that's seen humans do, and it's adapting it into itself.
It is a learning
It has 8 levels of health, and it does not die when you reduce it to 0 levels of health. It can just be turned back on and reactivated and repaired. With 5 levels of armor, by the way.
Not if you tear all the guts out.
And if it touches you, it electrifies you. Difficulty 6 to attack you with. It has 5 charges with it. Damage 4. And a sonic stunner that will blow your eardrums out when it screams.
Fuck that.
And then going into the Mark VI, that's when you get full-on nanotechnology. Here we go. We got the full-on TX levels here. Strength 3.
There's a subsection for the Mark V under
for the Mark V,
4.
and it's like a little like upgrade you can do with it, where it has like the biomechanical assemblage, where it's got the like chain guns, a partially organic brain, tungsten claws. It can rip a car in half with a swipe. Going into this, the Mark VI, Dexterity 2, Stamina 5, Charisma 1, Manipulation 1, Appearance 2, Perception 3, Intelligence 2, Wits 3, Alertness 3, Brawl 3, Dodge 3, Mimic 3, every skill except Meditation at 2, and all knowledge is at 1. And look at this, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 levels of health, but good luck damaging it because it can just pour itself back together because it's gray goo that can just shape itself back into place. You cannot kill this thing unless you have any sort of like big flaming AoE spell, and like the drone, it heals for 1 level of health per turn. Per player and NPC at the table's turn is what it heals for.
I'm gonna shoot it with a rocket launcher.
It says it can be destroyed, though.
It can be destroyed, but good luck getting it to that point. It's going to take a lot of shooting and throwing bombs at it, because like the TX, this thing's just going to pull itself back together. And then it has also the roving recorders, where we don't really need to go into the stats for these guys. But basically, you played the Simpsons Head Run, Kyle.
Quite extensively.
The bees.
The wasp cameras.
Yeah, it's like these little like bugs that have cameras inside of them that this iteration X uses to spy on everybody. That's in here if you want to use those.
Kind of looks like cockroach, though.
Yeah, it is. Just pick a bug, any bug, and you can use it to spy on somebody. And and then Victor would like to bring up the Strogs before we conclude for tonight. All right. As we know, Kyle's played a lot of Quake 4.
That is Quake 2, and no, I have not played Quake 4 or Quake 2, but I know what they are.
So if we can hyperlink a scene to let you know what it's like to be initiated into a member of the Iteration X, the infamous struggification scene.
Yes, from Quake 4. That I have seen.
Yeah. You get your legs cut off, you get your organs ripped out, you get an exoskeleton that you can never take off shoved into your body.
Basically.
It's gotta be fun. So yeah, like we said, there's a lot of stuff that you can use for reference Iteration X, except for the actual Iteration X book.
Yep.
And there we go. I believe that's it, gentlemen. I believe that's it for the Iteration X.
Yep. Come up with something
we'll never
better
have
for
to
it.
talk about these people again.
Come up with something better for it,
Maybe,
because there are
maybe
better
not.
ways to come up with it.
Yes, we
example,
get to talk about
right there.
something fun next month. Which one do you want to do? Progenitors or Void Engineers?
Progenitors, I'll be there.
Progenitors.
Preston Sound enjoys talking about his robotic ancestors.
There it is. You bioengineered. It's better for you to go and get the injection. You want to be like Captain America, where you get the injection into you.
Better living through chemistry.
So next week, we're going to talk about, for our new going theme, it's Mage March, everybody. It's Mage March. Every episode we're going to do is about Mage. And
Oh, is it actually?
Yes, we are, yeah.
Oh, so we're going into the traditions then.
Yeah, we are going into the Cult of Ecstasy next.
Oh, after we get done the Technocratic Union?
Oh, no, we're doing that for the first of every month.
Oh.
See, we're going into the 4 that I feel like are the most misunderstood. The Cult of Ecstasy being the big one. So I have a lot of stuff to talk about the Cult of Ecstasy when we get into that.
We did a Freya Sanders, so.
We got Freya Sanders. She will be on the thumbnail.
Cool. Anyway.
All right, and hey guys, I guess that's it.
Yes, indeed.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
GN, everyone.